Jeremiah. The words of Jeremiah the son of Hilkiah, from the priests that were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin, to who the word of Yhwh came in the days of Josiah the son of Ammon king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. It came also in the days of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah king of Judah, to the end of the 11th year of Zedekiah the son of Josiah king of Judah, to the carrying away of Jerusalem captive in the 5th month. Then the word of Yhwh came to me saying, Before I formed you in the belly I knew you, and before you came out of the womb I consecrated you, and I ordained you a prophet to the nations. Then I replied, Yhwh Elohim. See, I cannot speak because I am a youth. But Yhwh replied to me, Say not I am a youth, because you will go to all that I will send you, and whatever I command, you will speak. Be not afraid of their faces because I am with you to deliver you, says Yhwh. Then Yhwh put out his hand and touched my mouth. And Yhwh said to me, See, I have put my words in your mouth. See, I have this day set you over the nations and over the kingdoms, to root out, pull down, destroy, and to throw down, to build and to plant. Moreover the word of Yhwh came to me saying, Jeremiah, what do you see? And I replied, I see a rod of an almond tree. Then Yhwh replied to me, You have well seen, because I will awaken my word to perform it. And the word of Yhwh came to me the second time saying, What do you see? And I replied, I see a boiling pot, and its face is from the north. Then Yhwh said to me, Out of the north a calamity will break out upon all the inhabitants of the land. For lo, I will call all the families of the kingdoms of the north declares Yhwh, and they will come, and they will set everyone his throne at the entering of the gates of Jerusalem, and against all its walls round about, and against all the cities of Judah. And I will declare my judgments against them concerning all their bad, who have forsaken me and have burned incense to other Elohim, and worship the works of their own hands. You therefore gird up your hips, and get up, and speak to them all that I command you, be not dismayed at their faces, unless I shatter you before them. For note, I have made you this day a fortified city and an iron pillar, and bronze walls against the whole land, against the kings of Judah, against its leaders, against its priests, and against the people of the land. And they will fight against you, but they will not prevail against you, because I am with you declares Yhwh, to deliver you. Moreover the word of Yhwh came to me saying, Go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem saying, This is what Yhwh declares, I remember you, the kindness of your youth, the love of your betrothals, when you went after me in the uninhabited land, in a land that was not yielding seed. Israel was a sacredness to Yhwh, and the first fruits of his increase, all that devour him will be guilty, bad will befall them declares Yhwh. Hear you the word of Yhwh, O house of Jacob, and all the families of the house of Israel, this is what Yhwh declares, What injustice have your ancestors found in me so that they are gone far from me, and have walked after vanity and are become vain? And have not said, Where is Yhwh that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, that led us through the uninhabited land, through a land of deserts and of pits, through a land of drought and of the shadow of death, through a land that no man passed through, and where no man lived? And I brought you into a plentiful country, to eat its produce and its goodness, but when you entered, you defiled my land and made my heritage a disgusting thing. The priests did not say, Where is Yhwh? And they that handle the law knew me not, the shepherds also rebelled against me, and the prophets prophesied by Baal and walked after things that do not profit. Therefore I will still plead with you, declares Yhwh, and with your children's children will I plead. For pass over the isles of Kittim and see, and send to Kedar and consider diligently and see if there is such a thing. Has a nation changed their Elohim, which are no Elohim? But my people have changed their glory for what does not profit. Be astonished, O you cosmos at this, and be horribly afraid, be very desolate declares Yhwh. Because my people have committed two wrongs, they have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and cut themselves out cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. Is Israel a slave? Is he a home-born slave? Why is he become a spoil? The young lions roared upon him and yelled, and they made his land waste, his cities are burnt without inhabitant. Also the sons of Noph and Tahapanes consume you, the crown of the head. Have you not procured this to yourself, in that you have forsaken Yhwh your Elohim, when he led you by the way? And now what have you to do in the path of Egypt, to drink the waters of Sihor? Or what have you to do in the way of Assyria, to drink the waters of the river? Your own badness will correct you, and your backsliding will judge you. Know therefore and see that it is a bad thing and bitter, that you have forsaken Yhwh Elohim, and that my fear is not in you declares Yhwh Elohim of hosts. Because in ancient times I have broken your yoke, and broke your bands, and you said, I will not transgress, when on every high hill and under every green tree you wandered, playing the prostitute. Still I had planted you a noble vine, wholly a right seed, how then are you turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine to me? Because though you wash yourself with soda, and take yourself much soap, still your depravity is deeply stained before me, declares Yhwh Elohim. How can you say, I am not unclean, I have not gone after Balaam? See your way in the valley, know what you have done, you are a swift young camel traversing its ways, a wild donkey used to the wilderness, that snuffs up the wind at her pleasure, in her occasion who can turn her away? All they that find her will not weary themselves, in her month they will find her. Withhold your foot from being barefoot and your throat from thirst, but you say, there is no hope, no, for I have loved foreigners, and after them will I go. As the thief is ashamed when he is found, so is the house of Israel ashamed, they, their kings, their princes and their priests, and their prophets, saying to a stock, you are my father, and to a stone, you have brought me out. Because they have turned their back to me, and not their face, but in the time of their trouble they will say, get up and save us. But where are your Elohim that you have fashioned yourself? Let them arise, if they can save you in the time of your trouble, because according to the number of your cities are your Elohim, O Judah. Therefore you will plead with me? You all have revolted against me, declares Yhwh. In vain I have struck your children, they received no correction, your own sword has devoured your prophets, like a destroying lion. O generation, see the word of Yhwh. Have I been a wilderness to Israel? A land of darkness? Therefore say my people, we are Yhwhs, we will come no more to you? Can a maid forget her ornaments or a bride her attire? Still my people have forgotten me days without number. Why trim your way to seek love? Therefore have you also taught the wicked ones your ways? Also in your skirts is found the blood of the lives of the poor innocents, I have not found it by secret search, but upon all these. Still you say, because I am innocent certainly his anger will turn from me. Look, I will plead with you because you say, I have not sinned. What? You are very vile to repeat your way, even of Egypt you are ashamed, as you have been ashamed of Ashur, yes, you will go out from him, with your hands on your head, because Yhwh has rejected your confidences and you will not prosper in them. They say, if a man divorces his woman and she goes from him, and becomes another man's, will he return to her again? Will not that land be greatly profaned? But you have played the prostitute with many lovers, yet return again to me, says Yhwh. Lift up your eyes to the worship places and see where you have not been ravishing. On the road you have sat for them, as the Arabian in the wilderness, and you have defiled the land with your prostitution and with your badness. Therefore the heavy showers have been withheld, and there has been no latter rain, and you had a whore's forehead, you refused to be ashamed. Will you not from this time cry to me, my father, you are the intimate of my youth? Will he reserve his anger for the ages? Will he keep it to the end? Look, you have spoken and done bad things and have had your way. Yhwh said also to me in the days of Josiah the king, have you seen what backsliding Israel has done? She has gone up on every high mountain and under every green tree, and there has played the whore. And I said after she had done all these things, turn you to me. But she returned not. And her treacherous sister Judah saw it. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery I had divorced her, and given her a bill of divorce, still her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the prostitute also. And it came to pass through the frivolity of her prostitution, that she defiled the land, and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. And still for all this her treacherous sister Judah has not turned to me with her whole heart but with falsehood, says Yhwh. And Yhwh said to me, the backsliding Israel has justified herself more than treacherous Judah. Go and proclaim these words toward the north and say, return, you backsliding Israel, declares Yhwh, and I will not cause my anger to fall on you, because I am merciful, declares Yhwh, and I will not reserve anger for the ages. Only acknowledge your depravity, that you have rebelled against Yhwh Elohim and have scattered your ways to the strangers, under every green tree, and you have not obeyed my voice, declares Yhwh. Turn, O backsliding children, declares Yhwh, because I am married to you, and I will take you one of a city, and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion, and I will give you shepherds according to my heart that will feed you with knowledge and understanding. And it will come to pass, when you are multiplied and increased in the land, in those days, declares Yhwh, they will say no more, the ark of the covenant of Yhwh. Neither will it come to mind, neither will they remember it, neither will they visit it, neither will that be done any more. At that time they will call Jerusalem the throne of YHWH, and all the nations will be gathered to it, to the name of YHWH, to Jerusalem, neither will they walk any more after the imagination of their bad heart. In those days the house of Judah will walk with the house of Israel, and they will come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given for an inheritance to your forefathers. But I said, how will I put you among the children, and give you a pleasant land, a goodly heritage from the hosts of nations? And I said, you will call me, my father, and will not turn away from me. Surely as a woman treacherously departs from her husband, so have you dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel, declares YHWH. A voice was heard in the high places, weeping and supplications of the children of Israel, because they have perverted their way, and they have forgotten YHWH their Elohim. Return, you backsliding children, and I will heal your backslidings. Look, we come to you, because you are YHWH our Elohim. Surely in vain from the heights, the multitude of mountains, surely in YHWH our Elohim is the salvation of Israel. Because shame has devoured the labor of our forefathers from our youth, their flocks and their herds, their sons and their daughters. We lie down in our shame, and our confusion covers us, because we have sinned against YHWH, Elohim, we and our ancestors, from our youth even to this day, and have not obeyed the voice of YHWH Elohim. If you will return, O Israel, declares YHWH, return to me, and if you will put away your detestable things out of my sight, then will you not waver. And you will adjure, YHWH lives, in truth, in judgment, and in righteousness, and the nations will bless themselves in him, and in him will they glory. Because this is what YHWH declares to the men of Judah and Jerusalem, break up your untilled ground, and sow not among thorns. Circumcise yourselves to YHWH, and take away the foreskins of your heart, you men of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem, unless my rage goes out like supernatural fire, and burns so that none can quench it, because of the badness of your practices. Declare in Judah and publish in Jerusalem, and say, blow the trumpet in the land, cry, gather together and say, assemble yourselves and let us go into the fortified cities. Set up the standard toward Zion, retire, remain not, because I will bring badness from the north and a great destruction. The lion has come up from its thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He has gone out from his place to make your land desolate, and your cities will be laid waste without an inhabitant. For this gird yourselves with sackcloth, lament and wail, because the fierce anger of YHWH is not turned back from us. And it will come to pass at that day, declares YHWH, that the heart of the king will perish and the heart of the princes, and the priests will be deserted, and the prophets will be stunned. Then I said, ah, YHWH Elohim. Surely you have greatly deceived these people in Jerusalem, saying, you will have peace, whereas the sword reaches to their lives. At that time will it be said to this people and to Jerusalem, a dry wind of the high places in the wilderness toward the daughter of my people, not to fan, nor to cleanse, even a full wind from those places will come to me, now also I will give sentence against them. Look, he will come up as clouds, and his chariots will be as a whirlwind, his horses are swifter than eagles. Woe to us! Because we are spoiled. O Jerusalem, wash your heart from badness so that you may be liberated. How long will your vain thoughts lodge within yourself? Because a voice declares from Dan, and publishes affliction from Mount Ephraim. Make mention to the nations, observe, publish against Jerusalem so that besiegers come from a far country, and give out their voice against the cities of Judah. As keepers of a field are they against her all around, because she has been rebellious against me, declares YHWH. Your way and your practices have procured these things to you, this is your badness, because it is bitter, because it reaches to your heart. My bowels, I am pained, at the walls of my heart, make a noise for me doth my heart, I am not silent, for the voice of a trumpet I have heard, O my soul, a shout of battle. Destruction upon destruction is cried, because the whole land is spoiled, suddenly are my tents plundered, and my curtains in a moment. How long will I see the standard, and hear the sound of the horn? Because my people are foolish, they have not known me, they are foolish children, and they have no understanding, they are wise to do bad, but to do good they have no knowledge. I look to the land, and lo, confusion and void, and to the cosmos, and their light is not. I saw the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. I observed, and lo, there was no man, and all the birds of the skies were departed. I observed, and lo, the garden land was an uninhabited place, and all the cities were broken down at the presence of YHWH, and by his fierce anger. Because this is what YHWH has declared, the whole land will be desolate, still I will not make a termination. For this will the land mourn, and the skies above are darkened, Because I have spoken it, I have purposed it, and will not be moved to pity, neither will I turn back from it. The whole city will flee for the noise of the horsemen and archers, they will go into thickets, and climb up on the rocks, every city will be forsaken, and not a man to live in them. And when you are spoiled, what will you do? Though you clothe yourself with crimson, though you deck yourself with ornaments of gold, though you widen your face with cosmetics, in vain will you make yourself beautiful, your lovers will despise you, they will seek your life. Because I have heard a voice as of a woman in labor, and the anguish as of her that genders her first infant, the voice of the daughter of Zion that bewails herself, that spreads her hands saying, Woe is me now! For my life is wearied because of murderers. Run you to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem, and see now and know, and seek in the open plaza, if you can find a person, if there are any that execute judgment, that seek fidelity, and I will pardon it. And though they say, YHWH lives, certainly they adjure falsely. O YHWH, are not your eyes upon fidelity? You have struck them, but they have not grieved, you have consumed them, but they have refused to receive correction, they have made their faces harder than a rock, they have refused to return. Therefore I said, certainly these are poor, they are foolish, because they know not the way of YHWH, nor the judgment of their Elohim. I will go to the elders and I will speak with them, because they have known the way of YHWH, the judgment of their Elohim. Surely they together have broken the yoke, they have torn off the bonds. Therefore a lion out of the forest will slay them, and a wolf of the evening will spoil them, a leopard will watch over their cities, everyone that goes out from there will be torn in pieces, because their transgressions are many, and their backsliding has increased. How will I pardon you for this? Your children have forsaken me and sworn by them that are not Elohim, when I had fed them, to the full, they then committed adultery and assembled themselves by troops in the houses of prostitution. They were as fed horses in the morning, everyone neighed after his neighbor's wife. Will I not punish for these things? Declares YHWH, and will I not be avenged on such a nation as this? Go you up upon her walls and destroy, but make not a full end, take away her tendrils of a vine, because they are not YHWHs. Because the house of Israel and the house of Judah have dealt very treacherously against me, declares YHWH. They have belied YHWH, and said, It is not he, neither will bad come upon us, neither will we see sword or famine, and the prophets will become empty wind, and the word is not in them, thus will it be done to them. Therefore this is what YHWH Elohim of hosts declares, because you speak this word, note, I will make my words in your mouth supernatural fire, and this people wood, and it will devour them. Lo, I will bring a nation upon you from far, O house of Israel, declares YHWH, it is a mighty nation, it is an ancient nation, a nation whose language you do not know, neither understand what they say. Their quiver is as an open grave, they are all mighty men. And they will eat up your harvest and your food that your sons and your daughters should eat, they will consume your flocks and your herds, they will eat up your vines and your fig trees, they will shatter your fortified cities, where you placed your confidence in, with the sword. Nevertheless in those days, declares YHWH, I will not make a full end with you. And it will come to pass when you will say, Why does YHWH our Elohim do all these things to us? Then will you answer them, As you have forsaken me and served foreign Elohim in your land, so will you serve foreigners in a land that is not yours. Report this in the house of Jacob and publish it in Judah, saying, Hear this now, O foolish people without understanding, that have eyes and see not, that have ears and hear not, fear you not me? Declares YHWH, will you not tremble at my presence, which has placed the sand for the border of the sea by an age-lasting decree, that it cannot pass, beyond a certain point, and though the waves toss themselves, still they cannot prevail, though they roar, still they cannot pass over it. But this people has a revolting and a rebellious heart, they are turned aside and gone. Neither do they say in their heart, Let us now fear YHWH Elohim that gives rain, both the former and the latter in its season, he reserves to us the prescribed weeks of the harvest. Your depravities have turned away these things, and your sins have withheld good things from you. Because among my people are found wicked people, they lay in wait, as he that sets snares, they set ruin and they capture men. As a cage is full of birds, so are their houses full of deceit, therefore they are become great, and waxed rich. They are waxed fat, they shine, yes, they overpass the deeds of the wicked, they judge not the legal suit, the cause of the fatherless, yet they prosper, and the rights of the poor do they not judge. Will I not punish for these things? Declares YHWH, will I not be avenged on such a nation as this? A wasteful and horrible thing is committed in the land, the speakers prophesy falsely, and the priests, ministers, bear rule by their repetition, and my people love to have it so, and, what will you do in the latter time? O you children of Benjamin, gather yourselves to flee out of the midst of Jerusalem and blow the ram's horn in Tekoa, and set up a sign of fire in Beth-Axarim, for bad appears out of the north, and great destruction. The beautiful and the delicate one I have cut off, the daughter of Zion. The shepherds with their flocks will come to her, they will pitch their tents against her all around, they will feed everyone in his place. Prepare you war against her, arise and let us go up at noon. Woe to us! Because the day has declined, for the shadows of the evening are stretched out. Arise, and let us go by night, and let us destroy her citadel. Because this is what YHWH of hosts has declared, cut down trees, and cast a mound against Jerusalem. This is the city to be visited, she has oppression in her inward parts. As a fountain casts out her waters, so she casts out her badness, violence and spoil is heard in her, before me continually is grief and wounds. Be you instructed, O Jerusalem, unless my life departs from you, unless I make you desolate, a land not inhabited. This is what YHWH of hosts declares, they surely glean as a vine the remnant of Israel, put back your hand as a gatherer to the baskets. To whom will I speak and give warning so that they may hear? See, their ear is uncircumcised and they cannot hear, see, the word of YHWH is to them a scorn, they have no delight in it. Therefore I am full of the fury of YHWH, I am weary with holding in, I will pour it out upon the children abroad, and upon the assembly of young men together, because even the husband with the woman will be taken, an elder with one full of days. And their houses will be turned to others, with their fields and women together, because I will stretch out my hand upon the inhabitants of the land, declares YHWH. Because from the least of them even to the greatest of them everyone is given to unjust profit, and from the speaker even to the priest, ministers, everyone deals falsely. They have healed also the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying, Peace, peace, when there is no peace. Were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? No, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush, therefore they will fall among them that fall, at the time that I visit them they will be cast down, declares YHWH. This is what YHWH declares, stand in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your lives. But they said, we will not walk in it. Also I set watchmen over you saying, listen to the sound of the ram's horn. But they said, we will not listen. Therefore hear you nations, and know, O company, what is among them. Hear, O land, see, I will bring bad upon this people, even the fruit of their thoughts, because they have not listened to my words nor to my law, but rejected it. To what purpose comes there to me incense from Sheba, and the sweet cane from a far country? Your whole burnt offerings are not acceptable, nor your sacrifices sweet to me. Therefore this is what YHWH declares, see, I will lay stumbling blocks before this people, and the dads and the sons together will fall upon them, the neighbor and his friend will perish. This is what YHWH declares, look, a people come from the north country, and a great nation will be raised from the extreme parts of the earth. They will lay hold on bow and spear, they are cruel and have no mercy, their voice roars like the sea, and they ride upon horses, set in array as men for war against you, O daughter of Zion. We have heard the fame, our hands wax feeble, anguish has taken hold of us with pain, like a woman in labor. Go not out into the field, nor walk by the way, because the sword of the enemy and terror is on every side. O daughter of my people, gird yourself with sackcloth and wallow yourself in ashes, fashion yourself for mourning, as for an only son, most bitter wailing, for the destroyer will suddenly come upon us. I have set you for a tower and a fortress among my people, that you may know and examine their way. They are all grievous revolters, walking with slanders, they are brass and iron, they are all corrupters. The bellows are burnt, the lead is consumed of the fire, in vain the refiner has refined, because the bad are not rooted out. Reprobate silver will men call them, because YHWH has rejected them. The word that came to Jeremiah from YHWH saying, stand in the court of YHWH's temple, and proclaim there this word and say, hear the word of YHWH, all you of Judah that enter into these courts to worship YHWH. This is what YHWH of hosts declares, the Elohim of Israel, amend your ways and your practices, and I will cause you to reside in this standing place. Trust you not in lying words saying, the temple of YHWH, the temple of YHWH, the temple of YHWH, are these. For if you thoroughly amend your ways and your practices, if you thoroughly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor, if you oppress not the foreigner, the fatherless and the widow, and shed no innocent blood in this standing place, neither walk after other Elohim to your hurt, then I will cause you to reside in this standing place, in the land that I gave to your ancestors, for the ages of ages. Look, you are trusting in lying words that cannot profit. Will you steal, murder, commit adultery, adjure falsely and burn incense to Baal, and walk after other Elohim who you know not, and come and stand before me in this temple that is called by my name and say, we are delivered to do all these abominations? Is this temple that is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your eyes? Look, even I have seen it, declares YHWH. But go now to my standing place that was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it for the badness of my people Israel. And now, because you have done all these works, declares YHWH, and I spoke to you, rising up early and speaking, but you heard not, and I called you but you answered not, therefore I will do to this temple that is called by my name, in which you trust, and to the standing place that I gave to you and to your forefathers, as I have done to Shiloh. And I will cast you out of my sight as I have cast out all your kinship, even the whole seed of Ephraim. Therefore pray not for this people, neither lift up cry nor prayer for them, neither make intercession to me, because I will not hear you. Do not you see what they do in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem? The children gather wood, and the dads kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough, to make cakes to the queen of the sky, and to pour out drink offerings to other Elohim, so that they may provoke me to anger. Do they provoke me to anger, asks YHWH? Do they not provoke themselves to the shame of their own faces? Therefore this is what YHWH Elohim declares, observe, my anger and my fury will be poured out on this standing place, upon man, animal, and on the trees of the field, and on the produce of the ground, and it will burn and will not be quenched. This is what YHWH of hosts declares, the Elohim of Israel, put your whole burnt offerings to your sacrifices, and eat flesh. Because I spoke not to your forefathers nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, concerning whole burnt offerings or sacrifices, but this thing I commanded them, saying, obey my voice, and I will be your Elohim, and you will be my people, and walk you in all the ways that I have commanded you, so that it may be well for you. But they did not listen nor incline their ear, but walked in the counsels and in the imagination of their bad heart, and went backward and not forward. Since the day that your ancestors came out of the land of Egypt to this day I have even sent to you all my slaves the prophets, daily rising up early and sending them. Still they did not listen to me nor incline their ear, but hardened their neck. They did worse than their ancestors. Therefore you will speak all these words to them, but they will not hear you. You will also call to them, but they will not answer you. But you will say to them, this is a nation that obeys not the voice of YHWH their Elohim, nor receives correction. Truth is perished and is cut off from their mouth. Cut off your hair, O Jerusalem, and cast it away, and take up a lamentation on high places, for YHWH has rejected and forsaken the generation of his wrath. Because the children of Judah have done bad in my sight, declares YHWH, they have set their abominations in the temple that is called by my name, to make it unclean. And they have built the worship places of Tophet that is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire, which I commanded them not, neither came this into my mind. Therefore note, the days come, declares YHWH, that it will no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter, because they will bury in Tophet until there is no more space. And the corpses of this people will be meat for the fowls of the sky, and for the animals of the land, and none will drive them away. Then I will cause to cease from the cities of Judah and from the streets of Jerusalem, the voice of mirth, and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride, because the land will be desolate. At that time, declares YHWH, they will bring out the bones of the kings of Judah, and the bones of his princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem, out of their graves, and they will spread them before the sun and the moon, and all the host of the stars who they have loved and have served, and after whom they have walked, and have sought after and worshipped. They will not be gathered, nor be buried, they will be for dung upon the surface of the land. And death will be chosen rather than life by all the residue of them that remain in this bad family that remains in all the regions wherever I have driven them, declares YHWH of hosts. Moreover you will say to them, this is what YHWH declares, will they fall and not arise? Will he turn away and not return? Why has these people of Jerusalem turned back, a perpetual backsliding? They have kept hold on deceit, they have refused to turn back. I have given attention, yes, I listened, they do not speak right, and none has regretted of his badness, saying, what have I done? Everyone has turned to his own courses, as a horse is rushing into battle. Yes, the stork in the sky knows her appointed season, and the turtle and the crane and the swallow observe the season of their coming, but my people know not the judgment of YHWH. How do you say, we are wise and the law of YHWH is with us? Lo, certainly in vain he made it, the pen of the scribes is in vain. The wise men are ashamed, they are dismayed and taken, lo, they have rejected the word of YHWH, and what wisdom is in them? Therefore I will give their women to others, and their fields to them that will inherit them. For everyone from the least even to the greatest is given to unjust profit, from the speaker even to the priest everyone deals falsely. Because they have healed the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying peace, peace, when there is no peace. Were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? No, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush, therefore will they fall among them that fall. At the time of their custody they will be cast down, declares YHWH. I will certainly consume them, declares YHWH. There will be no grapes on the vine, nor figs on the fig tree, and the leaf will fade, and the things that I have given them will pass away from them. Why do we sit still? Gather yourselves, and let us enter into the fortified cities, and let us be silent there, because YHWH Elohim has put us to silence, and given us water of gall to drink, because we have sinned against YHWH. We looked for peace, but no good came, and for a time of health, and saw dismay. The snorting of his horses was heard from Dan, the whole land trembled at the sound of the neighing of his strong ones, for they are come and have devoured the land, and all that is in it, the city and those that live there. For see, I will send serpents, dragon, and poisonous snakes, among you, which will not be charmed, and they will bite you, declares YHWH. When I would comfort myself against sorrow, my heart is faint in me. Observe the voice of the cry of the daughter of my people because of them that live in a far country. Is not YHWH in Zion? Is not her king in her? Why have they provoked me to anger with their graven images, and with foreign vanities? The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not liberated. For the hurt of the daughter of my people am I hurt, I am mourning, horror has taken hold on me. Is there no balm in Gilead, is there no physician there? Why then is not the health of the daughter of my people recovered? Oh, that my head were waters, and my eyes a fountain of tears, so that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people. Oh, that I had in the wilderness a lodging place of wayfaring men, that I might leave my people and go from them. Because they are all adulterers, an assembly of treacherous people. And they bend their tongues like their bow for lies, but they are not prevailing for the truth upon the land, because they proceed from bad to bad, and they know not me, declares YHWH. Take heed every one of his neighbor, and trust not in any brother, because every brother will attack at the heel. And every neighbor, as an informer, goes about. And they will deceive everyone his neighbor, and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongue to speak lies, and weary themselves to be perverted. Your habitation is in the middle of deceit, through deceit, they refuse to know me, declares YHWH. Therefore this is what YHWH of hosts declares, observe, I will refine them and examine them, for how do I do because of the daughter of my people? Their tongue is as an arrow shot out, it speaks deceit, one speaks peaceably to his neighbor with his mouth, but in heart he lays his ambuscade. Will I not visit them for these things? Declares YHWH, will I not be avenged on such a nation as this? For the mountains I will take up a weeping and wailing, and for the habitations of the wilderness a dirge, because they are burnt up, so that none can pass through them. Neither can people hear the voice of the cattle, both the flying creatures of the sky and the animals are fled, they are gone. And I will make Jerusalem heaps, and a den of dragons, and I will make the cities of Judah desolate, without an inhabitant. Who is the wise man that may understand this? And who is he to whom the mouth of YHWH has spoken, that he may declare it? For what has the land perished for, and is burnt up like a wilderness, so that none pass through? Then YHWH declared, because they have forsaken my law that I set before them, and have not obeyed my voice, neither walked in it, but have walked after the imagination of their own heart, and after Baalim that their ancestors taught them of. Therefore this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, look, I will feed them, even this people with wormwood, and give them water of gall to drink. I will scatter them also among the heathen, who neither they nor their ancestors have known, and I will send a sword after them, until I have consumed them. This is what YHWH of hosts declares, consider, and call for the mourning women so that they may come, and send for skillful women, that they may come, and let them hurry and take up a wailing for us, so that our eyes may run down with tears, and our eyelids gush out with waters. Because a voice of wailing is heard out of Zion, how are we spoiled? We are greatly confounded, because we have forsaken the land, because they have cast down our houses. Now hear the word of YHWH, O you women, and let your ear receive the word of his mouth, and teach your daughters wailing, and everyone her neighbor a dirge. Because death has come up into our windows, and has entered into our citadel, to cut off the children from the streets, and the young men from the plaza. Speak, this is what YHWH declares, even the corpses of men will fall as dung upon the open field, and as a handful after the reaper, and there is none gathering. This is what YHWH declares, let not the wise glory in their wisdom, Neither let the mighty glory in his might, let not the rich glory in their riches, but let him that glories glory in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am YHWH that exercises lovingkindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth, because in these things I delight, declares YHWH. Note, the days come, declares YHWH, that I will punish all them that are circumcised with the uncircumcised, Egypt, Judah, Edom, and the children of Ammon, and Moab, and all that are in the far extremities that live in the wilderness, because all these nations are uncircumcised, and all the house of Israel are uncircumcised in the heart. Hear the word that YHWH speaks to you, O house of Israel. This is what YHWH declares: learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of the stars, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Because the customs of the people are vain, for one cuts down a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the artisan, with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold, they fasten it with nails and with hammers so that it does not wobble. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not, they must needs be lifted up, because they cannot take a step. Be not afraid of them, because they cannot do bad, neither also is it in them to do good. There is none like to you, O YHWH, you are great, and your name is great in might. Who does not fear you, King of the nations? For to you it is becoming, for among all the wise of the nations, and in their entire kingdom there is none like you. But they are altogether barbarous and foolish. The Christmas/idol, tree/stock is a doctrine of vanities. Silver spread into plates is brought from Tarshish, and gold from Uphaz, the work of the workman, and of the hands of the founder. Blue and purple is their clothing, they are all the work of the skillful. But YHWH is the true Elohim, he is the living Elohim, and an age-lasting king. At his anger the earth will quake, and the nations will not be able to contain his indignation. This is what you will say to them: the Elohim that have not fashioned the cosmos and the earth, even they will perish from the earth, and from under these cosmos. He has fashioned the earth by his power, he has established the world by his wisdom, and has stretched out the cosmos by his knowledge. At the voice he gives out, a multitude of waters is in the skies, and he causes vapors to come up from the end of the earth, lightnings for rain he has made, and brings out wind from his storehouse. Every one is barbarous in his knowledge, every founder is withered by the idol, because his cast image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, and the work of errors, in the time of their charge they will perish. The portion of Jacob is not like them, because he is the former of all things, and Israel is the scepter of his inheritance. YHWH of hosts is his name. Gather up your packs, out of the land, O inhabitant of the siege enclosure. Because this is what YHWH declares: lo, I am slinging out the inhabitants of the land at this time, and have been an adversary to them, so that they are found out. Woe is me for my hurt. My wound is grievous, but I said, truly this is a grief and I must bear it. My tabernacle is devastated, and all my cords are broken, my children are gone out from me, and they are not, there is none to stretch out my tent any more and to set up my curtains. Because the pastors, ministers, are become unreceptive, and have not sought YHWH, therefore they will not prosper, and all their flocks will be scattered. Observe, the voice of the news has come, and a great rattling out of the north country, to make the cities of Judah desolate, and a den of dragons. O YHWH, I know that the way of man is not in himself, it is not in man that walks to direct his own steps. O YHWH, correct me, but with judgment, not in your anger, unless you bring me to nothing. Pour out your fury upon the heathen that know you not, and upon the families that call not on your name, because they have eaten up Jacob and devoured him, and consumed him, and have made his habitation desolate. The word that came to Jeremiah from YHWH, saying, hear you the words of this covenant, and speak to the men of Judah, and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and say to them, this is what YHWH Elohim of Israel declares: cursed is the man that obeys not the words of this covenant, that I commanded your forefathers in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, from the iron forge, saying, obey my voice and institute them, according to all that I command you, so will you be my people and I will be your Elohim, that I may perform the oath that I have adjured to your ancestors, to give them a land flowing with milk and honey, as it is this day. Then I answered and said, so be it, O YHWH. Then YHWH replied to me, proclaim all these words in the cities of Judah, and in the streets of Jerusalem, saying, hear you the words of this covenant and institute them. Because I earnestly protested to your forefathers in the day that I brought them up out of the land of Egypt, even to this day, rising early and protesting, saying, obey my voice. Still they obeyed not, nor inclined their ear, but walked every one in the imagination of their bad heart. Therefore I will bring upon them all the words of this covenant that I commanded them to do, but they did not institute them. Then YHWH said to me, a conspiracy is found among the men of Judah and among the inhabitants of Jerusalem. They are turned back to the depravities of their forefathers that refused to hear my words, and they went after other Elohim to serve them. The house of Israel and the house of Judah have broken my covenant pledge that I cut out with their ancestors. Therefore this is what YHWH declares, see, I will bring bad upon them so that they will not be able to escape, and though they will cry to me, I will not listen to them. Then will the cities of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem go, and cry to the Elohim to who they offer incense, but they will not deliver them at all in the time of their trouble. Because according to the number of your cities were your Elohim, O Judah, and according to the number of the streets of Jerusalem you have set up altars to that shameful thing, even altars to burn incense to Baal. Therefore you will not pray for this people, neither lift up a cry or prayer for them, because I will not hear them in the time that they cry to me for their trouble. What has my beloved to do in my house, seeing she has made lewdness with many, and the sacred flesh is passed from you? When you do bad, then you rejoice. YHWH called your name, a green olive tree, and fair and of goodly fruit, with the noise of a great roaring he has set fire to it, and the branches of it are broken. Because YHWH of hosts, that planted you, has pronounced bad against you, for the badness of the house of Israel and of the house of Judah that they have done against themselves to provoke me to anger in offering incense to Baal. And YHWH has given me knowledge of it, and I know it, then you showed me their practices. But I was like a lamb or an ox that is brought to the slaughter. And I knew not that they had devised devices against me, saying, let us destroy the tree with its fruit, and let us cut him off from the land of the living so that his name may no more be remembered. But, O YHWH of hosts, that judges righteously, that tries the reins and the heart, let me see your vengeance on them, because to you have I revealed my cause. Therefore this is what YHWH says of the men of Anatoth that seek your life, saying, prophesy not in the name of YHWH so that you do not die by our hand. Therefore this is what YHWH of hosts declares, look, I will punish them, the young men will die by the sword, their sons and their daughters will die by famine. And there will be no remnant of them, because I will bring bad upon the men of Anatoth, even the year of their custody. Righteous are you, O YHWH, when I plead with you, yet let me talk with you of your judgments. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why are they all happy that deal very treacherously? You have planted them, yes, they have taken root, they grow, yes, they bring forth fruit, you are near in their mouth, and far from their reins. But you, O YHWH, know me, you have seen me, and tried my heart toward you, pull them out like sheep for the slaughter and prepare them for the day of slaughter. How long will the land mourn, and the herbs of every field wither, because of the wickedness of them that live there? The animals are consumed and the birds, because they said, he will not see our latter time. If you have run with the footmen, and they have wearied you, then how can you contend with horses? And if in the land of peace where you trusted, they wearied you, then how will you do in the swelling of Jordan? For even your relatives, and the house of your father, even they have dealt treacherously with you, yes, they have called a multitude after you, believe them not, though they speak fair words to you. I have forsaken my house, I have left my heritage, I have given the dearly beloved of my life into the hand of her enemies. My heritage is to me as a lion in the forest, it cries out against me, therefore have I hated it. My heritage is to me as a speckled bird, the birds all around are against her, come you, assemble all the animals of the field, come to devour. Many shepherds have destroyed my vineyard, they have trampled my portion underfoot, they have made my precious portion a desolate wilderness. They have made it desolate, and being desolate it mourns unto me, the whole land is made desolate because no man lays it to heart. The spoilers are come on all the high places through the wilderness, for the sword of YHWH will devour from the one end of the land even to the other end of the land, no flesh will have peace. They have sown wheat, but will reap thorns, they have put themselves to pain, but will not profit, and they will be ashamed of your produce because of the fierce anger of YHWH. This is what YHWH says against all my bad neighbors, that touch the inheritance that I have caused my people Israel to inherit. See, I will pluck them out of their land, and pluck out the house of Judah from among them. And it will come to pass, after I have plucked them out I will return and have compassion on them, and will bring them again, every man to his heritage and every man to his land. And it will come to pass, if they will diligently learn the ways of my people, to adjure, by my name, YHWH lives, as they taught my people to adjure by Baal, then will they be restored in the midst of my people. But if they will not obey, I will expel and destroy that nation, declares YHWH. This is what YHWH said to me, go and get yourself a linen waistcloth, and put it on your hips, but put it not in water. So I got a waistcloth according to the word of YHWH and put it on my hips. Then the word of YHWH came to me the second time saying, take the waistcloth that you have got, which is on your hips, and arise, go to Euphrates and hide it there in a cleft of the rock. So I went, and hid it by Euphrates, as YHWH commanded me. And it came to pass after many days that YHWH said to me, Arise, go to Euphrates and take the waist cloth from there, which I commanded you to hide. Then I went to Euphrates, and excavated, and took the waist cloth from the place where I had hidden it, and lo, the waist cloth was marred, it was profitable for nothing. Then the word of YHWH came to me saying, This is what YHWH declares, After this manner will I mar the pride of Judah, and the great pride of Jerusalem. This bad people that refuse to hear my words, which walk in the imagination of their heart and walk after other Elohim, to serve them, and to worship them, will even be as this waist cloth, which is good for nothing. For as the waist cloth cleaved to the hips of a man, so have I caused to cleave to me the whole house of Israel and the whole house of Judah, declares YHWH. That they might be to me for a people, and for a name and for a praise, and for a glory, but they would not hear. Therefore you will speak to them this word, YHWH Elohim of Israel declares, Every bottle will be filled with wine, and they will say to you, Do we not certainly know that every bottle will be filled with wine? Then you will say to them, This is what YHWH declares, See, I will fill all the inhabitants of this land, even the kings that sit on David's throne, and the priests and the prophets, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, with drunkenness. And I will dash them one against another, even the dads and the sons together, declares YHWH, I will not pity, nor spare, nor have mercy, but will destroy them. Hear you and give ear, be not proud, because YHWH has spoken. Give glory to YHWH Elohim, before he causes darkness, and before your feet stumble upon the dark mountains, and while you look for light, he turns it into the shadow of death, and makes it dark clouds. But if you will not hear it, my heart will weep in secret places for your pride, and my eye will weep sore, and run down with tears, because YHWH's flock is carried away captive. Say to the king and to the queen, Humble yourselves, sit down, because your dominion will come down, even the crown of your glory. The cities of the south will be shut up, and none will open them. Judah will be carried away captive, all of it, it will be wholly carried away captive. Lift up your eyes and watch them that come from the north, where is the flock that was given you, your beautiful flock? What will you say when he will punish you? Because you have taught them to be captains, and as chief over you, will not sorrows overtake you as a woman in labor? And if you say in your heart, How come these things are upon me? For the greatness of your depravity are your skirts discovered and your heels made bare. Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may you also do good, that are accustomed to do bad. Therefore I will scatter them as the stubble that passes away by the wind of the wilderness. This is your lot, the portion of your measure from me, declares YHWH, because you have forgotten me, and trusted in falsehood. Therefore I will discover your skirts upon your face so that your shame may appear. I have seen your adulteries and your neighing, the lewdness of your prostitution, and your abominations on the hills and the fields. Woe to you, O Jerusalem! Will you not be made clean? When will it once be? The word of YHWH that came to Jeremiah concerning the drought. Judah mourns, and the marketplace is exhausted, they are mourning for the land, and the cry of Jerusalem has ascended. And their nobles have sent their little ones to the waters, they came to the trench and found no water, they returned with their vessels empty, they were disconcerted and confused, and covered their heads. Because the ground is cracked, because there was no rain in the land, the plowmen were ashamed, they covered their heads. Yes, the deer also gave birth in the field, and forsook it, because there was no grass. And the wild donkeys did stand in the high places, they gasped up the wind like dragons, their eyes did fail, because there was no grass. Certainly our depravities have testified against us, do something O YHWH for your name's sake, because many have been our backslidings, against you we have sinned. O the hope of Israel, the Savior in time of trouble, why should you be as a foreigner in the land, and as a wayfaring man that turns aside to lodge for a night? Why should you be as a man astonished, as a mighty man that cannot rescue? But you O YHWH, are in the midst of us, and we are called by your name, leave us not. This is what YHWH declares to this people, they have loved to wander, they have not refrained their feet, therefore YHWH does not accept them, he will now remember their depravity, and visit their sins. Then YHWH said to me, Pray not for this people for their good. When they fast, I will not hear their cry, and when they offer whole burnt offering and gifts, I will not accept them, but I will consume them by the sword, and by the famine, and by the plague. Then I said, Ah, YHWH Elohim. Look, the prophets say to them, You will not see the sword, neither will you have famine, but I will give you assured peace in this standing place. Then YHWH said to me, The The prophets prophesy lies in my name, I sent them not, neither have I commanded them, neither spoke to them, they prophesy to you a false vision and divination, and a thing good for nothing, and the deceit of their heart. Therefore this is what YHWH declares concerning the prophets that prophesy in my name, and I sent them not, still they say, sword and famine will not be in this land, by sword and famine will those prophets be consumed. And the people to whom they prophesy will be cast out in the streets of Jerusalem because of the famine and the sword, and they will have none to bury them or their women, their sons or their daughters, because I will pour their bad upon them. Therefore you will say this word to them, let my eyes run down with tears night and day, and let them not cease, because the virgin daughter of my people is broken with a great breach, with a very grievous blow. If I go out into the field, then see the slain with the sword. And if I enter into the city, then see them that are sick with famine. Yes, both the prophet and the priest go about into a land that they know not. Have you utterly rejected Judah? Have you loathed Zion? Why have you ravaged us, and there is no healing for us? We looked for peace, and there is no good, and for the time of healing, and behold trouble. We acknowledge, O YHWH, our wickedness, and the depravity of our ancestors, because we have sinned against you. Do not abhor us, for your name's sake, do not disgrace the throne of your glory, remember, break not your covenant with us. Are there any among the vanities of the Gentiles that can cause rain? Or can the skies give showers? Are not you he, O YHWH Elohim? Therefore we will wait on you, because you have produced all these things. Then YHWH said to me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, still my mind could not be toward these people, cast them out of my sight, and let them go out. And it will come to pass, if they say to you, where will we go? Then you will tell them, this is what YHWH declares, such as are for death, to death, and such as are for the sword, to the sword, and such as are for the famine, to the famine, and such as are for the captivity, to the captivity. And I will appoint over them 4 kinds, declares YHWH, the sword to slay, and the dogs to tear, and the fowls of the sky, and the animals of the earth, to devour and destroy. And I will cause them to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth, because of Manasseh the son of Hezekiah king of Judah, for what he did in Jerusalem. Because who will have pity on you, O Jerusalem? Or who will bemoan you? Or who will go aside to ask how you prosper? You have forsaken me, declares YHWH, you are gone backward, therefore I will stretch out my hand against you and destroy you, I am weary with grief. And I will fan them with a fan in the marketplaces of the land, I will bereave them of children, I will destroy my people, since they return not from their ways. Their widows are increased to me above the sand of the seas, I have brought on them against the mother of the young men a spoiler at noonday, I have caused him to fall on it suddenly, and terrors upon the city. She that has engendered 7 grows feeble, she has given up her life, her sun is gone down while it was still day, she has been disconcerted and confounded, and the residue of them I will deliver to the sword before their enemies, declares YHWH. Woe is me, my mother, that you have gendered me a man of strife and a man of contention to the whole earth. I have not lent or have I borrowed, still every one of them does curse me. YHWH declared, of a truth it will be well with your remnant, of a truth I will cause the enemy to fall upon you in the time of bad and in the time of affliction. Will iron break the northern iron and the steel? Your substance and your treasures I will give to the spoil without price, and that for all your sins, even in all your territory. And I will make you to pass with your enemies into a land that you know not, because a fire is kindled in my anger that will burn upon you. O YHWH, you know, remember me and visit me, and revenge me of my persecutors, take me not away in your presence, know that for your sake I have suffered scorn. Your words were found, and I did eat them, and your word was to me the joy and rejoicing of my heart, because I am called by your name, O YHWH Elohim of hosts. I sat not in the assembly of the mockers, nor rejoiced, I sat alone because of your hand, because you have filled me with indignation. Wherefore, has my pain become perpetual? And my wound, incurable? Refuses to be healed? Will you, indeed be, to me, as a brook, that disappoints, waters that cannot be trusted? Therefore this is what YHWH declares, if you return, then I will bring you again, and you will stand before me, and if you will extract the precious from the vile, you will be as my mouth, let them return to you, but return you not to them. And I will make you to this people a fenced bronze wall, and they will fight against you, but they will not prevail against you, because I am with you to save you and to deliver you, declares YHWH. And I will deliver you out of the hand of the bad, and I will ransom you out of the hand of the terror strikes. The word of YHWH came also to me, saying, you will not take for yourself a woman, neither will you have sons or daughters in this standing place. Because this is what YHWH declares, of the sons and of the daughters who are born in this standing place, and of their mothers, those bearing them, and of their fathers, those beating them in this land. They will die of grievous deaths, they will not be mourned, and neither will they be buried. But they will be as dung upon the surface of the ground, and they will be consumed by the sword, and by famine, and their corpses will be meat for the flying creatures of the sky, and for the animals of the land. Because this is what YHWH declares, enter not into the house of mourning, neither go to mourn or grieve for them, because I have taken away my peace from this people, declares YHWH, even goodness and compassion. Both the great and the small will die in this land, they will not be buried, neither will people mourn for them, nor cut themselves, nor make themselves bald for them. Neither will people tear themselves for them in mourning, to comfort them for those perished, neither will people give them the cup of consolation to drink for their dad or their mother. Also, you will not go into the banquet house, to sit with them to eat and to drink. Because this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, look, I will cause to cease out of this place in your eyes, and in your days, the voice of rejoicing, and the voice of gaiety, the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride. And it will come about, when you will show this people all these words, and they will say to you, why has YHWH pronounced all this great bad against us? Or what is our depravity? Or what is our sin that we have committed against YHWH Elohim? Then you will say to them, because your ancestors have forsaken me, declares YHWH, and have walked after other Elohim, and have served them and have worshipped them, and have forsaken me, and have not observed my law, and you have done worse than your ancestors, for lo, you walk everyone after the imagination of his bad heart so that they may not listen to me. Therefore I will cast you out of this land into a land that you know not, neither you nor your forefathers, and there will you serve other Elohim day and night, where I will not show you favor. Therefore watch, the days come, declares YHWH, that it will no more be said, YHWH lives, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but, YHWH lives, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands where he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I gave to their forefathers. Note, I will send for many fishermen, declares YHWH, and they will fish for them, and afterwards I will send for many hunters, and they will hunt them from every mountain, and from every hill, and out of the clefts of the rocks. Because my eyes are on all their ways, they are not hidden from my face, neither is their depravity hidden from my eyes. I will repay their depravity and their sin double, because they have desecrated my land, they have filled my inheritance with the corpses of their detestable and abominable things. O YHWH, my strength, and my place of safety, and my refuge in the day of trouble, the Gentiles will come to you from the ends of the earth, and will say, certainly our ancestors have inherited lies, vanity, and things in which there is no profit. Will a man fashion Elohim to himself, and they are no Elohim? Therefore lo, I am causing them to know at this time, I cause them to know my hand and my might, and they have known that my name is YHWH. The sin of Judah is written with a stylus of iron, and with the point of a diamond, it is graven upon the tablet of their heart, and upon the horns of your altars, while their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees on the high hills. O my mountain in the field, I will give your substance and all your treasures to the spoil, and your worship places for sin, throughout all your territories. And you, even yourself, will discontinue from your heritage that I gave you, and I will cause you to serve your enemies in the land that you know not, because you have kindled a fire in my anger that will burn for the ages. This is what YHWH declares, cursed is the man that trusts in man, and makes flesh his arm, and whose heart departs from YHWH, because he will be like the destitute in the desert, and will not see when good comes, but will inhabit the parched places in the uninhabited land, in a salt land and not inhabited. Blessed is the man that trusts in YHWH, and whose hope YHWH is. Because he will be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreads out her roots by the river, and will not see when heat comes, but her leaf will be green, and will not be careful in the year of drought, neither will cease from yielding fruit. The heart is deceitful above all things, and desperately wicked, who can know it? I YHWH search the heart, I try the reins, even to give everyone according to his ways, and according to the fruit of his practices. As the partridge sits on eggs, and hatches them not, so he that gets riches, and not by right, will leave them in the middle of his days, and at his end will be a fool. A glorious high throne from the beginning is the locality of our sacred place. O YHWH, the hope of Israel, all that forsake you will be ashamed, and they that depart from me will be recorded in the ground, because they have forsaken YHWH, the fountain of living waters. Heal me, O YHWH, and I will be healed, save me, and I will be saved, because you are my praise. See, they say to me, where is the word of YHWH? Let it come now. As for me, I have not hurried away from being a shepherd that follows you, nor have I desired the incurable day. You know what came out of my lips and that it was right there in front of you. Be not a terror to me, you are my hope in the bad day. Let them be confounded that persecute me, but let not me be confounded. Let them be dismayed, but let not me be dismayed. Bring upon them the bad day, and destroy them with double destruction. This is what YHWH says to me, go and stand in the marketplace of the children of the people, where the kings of Judah come in, and by which they go out, and in all the gates of Jerusalem, and say to them, hear you the word of YHWH, you kings of Judah, and all Judah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem that enter in by these gates. This is what YHWH declares, take heed to yourselves and bear no burden on the Sabbath day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem, neither carry out a burden from your houses on the Sabbath day, neither do you any work, but consecrate the Sabbath day, as I commanded your ancestors. But they obeyed not, neither inclined their ear, but made their necks stiff so that they might not hear, nor receive instruction. And it will come to pass, if you diligently listen to me, declares YHWH, to bring in no burden through the gates of this city on the Sabbath day, but consecrate the Sabbath day, to do no work in that time, then will there enter into the gates of this city kings and princes sitting on the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses, they and their princes, the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and this city will remain for the ages. And they will come from the cities of Judah, and from the places around Jerusalem, and from the land of Benjamin and from the plain, and from the mountains, and from the south, bringing whole burnt offerings and sacrifices, and meat offerings and incense, and bringing sacrifices of praise to the temple of YHWH. But if you will not listen to me to consecrate the Sabbath day, and not to bear a burden, even entering in at the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, then I will kindle a fire in its gates, and it will devour the palaces of Jerusalem, and it will not be quenched. The word that came to Jeremiah from YHWH saying, get up and go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause you to hear my words. Then I went down to the potter's house and looked, he fashioned a work on the wheels. And the vessel that he fashioned of clay was ruined in the hand of the potter, so he fashioned it again into another vessel, as seemed good to the potter to make. Then the word of YHWH came to me saying, O house of Israel, cannot I do with you as this potter? Declares YHWH. Observe, as the clay is in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand, O house of Israel. At what moment I will speak concerning a nation, and concerning a kingdom, to pluck up, and to pull down, and to destroy it, if that nation, against who I have pronounced, turns from their badness, I will repent, have a change of mind, of the bad that I thought to do to them. And at what moment I will speak concerning a nation, and concerning a kingdom, to build and to plant it, if it does bad in my sight so that it obeys not my voice, then I will reap of the good, in which I said I would benefit them. Now therefore go to, speak to the men of Judah, and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem saying, this is what YHWH declares, see, I frame bad against you, and devise a device against you. Return you now everyone from his bad way, and make your ways and your practices good. And they said, there is no hope, but we will walk after our own devices, and we will everyone do the imagination of their bad heart. Therefore this is what YHWH declares, ask you now among the heathen, who has heard such things, the Virgin of Israel has done a very horrible thing. Will a man leave the snow of Lebanon that comes from the rock of the field? Or will the cold flowing waters that come from another place be forsaken? Because my people have forgotten me, they have burnt incense to vanity, and they have caused them to stumble in their ways from the ancient paths, to walk in paths, in a way not highly esteemed, to make their land desolate, and an age-lasting hissing. Everyone that passes by there will be astonished, and wag his head. I will scatter them as with an east wind before the enemy, I will show them the back, and not the face, in the day of their calamity. Then they said, come, and let us devise devices against Jeremiah, because the law will not perish from the priest, nor counsel from the wise, nor the word from the prophet. Come, and let us strike him with the tongue, and let us not give heed to any of his words. Give heed to me, O YHWH, and listen to the voice of them that contend with me. Will bad be compensated for good? Because they have dug a pit for my life. Remember that I stood before you to speak good for them, and to turn away your anger from them. Therefore deliver up their children to the famine, and pour out their blood by the force of the sword, and let their women be bereaved of their children and become widows. And let their men be put to death, let their young men be killed by the sword in battle. Let a cry be heard from their houses, when you will bring a troop suddenly on them, because they have dug a pit to take me, and hidden snares for my feet. Still, YHWH, you know all their counsel against me to kill me, forgive not their depravity, neither blot out their sin from your sight, but let them be overthrown before you, deal so with them at the time of your anger. This is what YHWH declares, go and get a potter's earthen bottle, and take of the elder of the people, and of the elder of the priests, and go out to the valley of the son of Hinnom that is by the entry of the east gate, and proclaim there the words that I will tell you, and say, hear you the word of YHWH, O kings of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem. This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, look, I will bring bad upon this standing place, that whoever hears, their ears will tingle. Because they have forsaken me and have estranged this standing place, and have burnt incense in it to other Elohim, who neither they nor their forefathers have known, nor the kings of Judah, and have filled this standing place with the blood of the innocent. They have also built the worship places of Baal, to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings to Baal, which I commanded not, nor spoke it, neither did it enter into my mind. Therefore watch, the days come declares YHWH that this standing place will no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. And I will make void the counsel of Judah and Jerusalem in this standing place, and I will cause them to fall by the sword before their enemies, and by the hands of them who seek their lives. And their corpses I will give to be meat for the flying creatures of the sky, and for the animals of the land. And I will make this city desolate, and an hissing, everyone that passes by will be astonished and hiss because of all its plagues. And I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and they will eat everyone the flesh of his friend in the siege and distress with which their enemies, and those that seek their lives will oppress them. Then you will break the bottle in the sight of the men that go with you, and will say to them, this is what YHWH of hosts declares, even so will I break this people in this city, as one breaks a potter's vessel, that cannot be made whole again, and they will bury them in Tophet, until there is no space to bury. I will do to this standing place declares YHWH, and to its inhabitants, and even make this city as Tophet, and the houses of Jerusalem, and the houses of the kings of Judah, will become unclean as the place of Tophet, because of all the houses upon whose roofs they have burnt incense to all the stars of the cosmos, and have poured out drink offerings to other Elohim. Then Jeremiah came from Tophet, where YHWH had sent him to prophesy, and he stood in the court of YHWH's temple, and said to all the people, this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, see, I will bring upon this city and upon all her towns all the bad that I have pronounced against it, because they have hardened their necks so that they might not hear my words. Now Pashur the son of Immer the priest, who was also chief governor in the temple of YHWH, heard that Jeremiah prophesied these things. Then Pashur struck Jeremiah the prophet, and put him in the stocks that were in the high gate of Benjamin that was by the temple of YHWH. And it came to pass on the next day that Pashur brought out Jeremiah from the stocks. Then Jeremiah said to him, YHWH has not called your name Pashur, but Magar-Misabib, terror on every side. Because this is what YHWH declares, look, I will make you a terror to yourself, and to all your friends. And they will fall by the sword of their enemies, and your eyes will see it, and I will give all Judah into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he will carry them captive into Babylon, and will kill them with the sword. Moreover I will deliver all the strength of this city, and all its labors, and all its precious things, and all the treasures of the kings of Judah I will give into the hand of their enemies that will plunder them, and seize them, and carry them to Babylon. And you, Pashur, and all that live in your house will go into captivity, and you will come to Babylon, and there you will die, and will be buried there, you, and all your friends, to who you have prophesied lies. O YHWH, you have deceived me and I was deceived, you are stronger than I, and have prevailed, I am in derision daily, everyone mocks me. Because since I spoke, I cried out, I cried violence and plunder, because the word of YHWH was made a reproach to me, and a derision, daily. Then I said, I will not make mention of him, nor speak any more in his name. But his word was in my heart as a burning supernatural fire shut up in my bones, and I was weary with holding it inside, and I could not prevail. Because I heard the defamation of many, fear on every side. Report, say they, and we will report it. All my allies watched for my halting, saying, peradventure he will be enticed and we will prevail against him, and we will take our revenge on him. And YHWH is with me, as a terrible mighty one, therefore my persecutors stumble and prevail not, they have been exceedingly ashamed, for they have not acted wisely, confusion age lasting is not forgotten. But, O YHWH of hosts, that examine the righteous and inspect the reins and the heart, let me see your vengeance on them, because to you have I opened my dispute. Sing to YHWH, praise you YHWH, because he has delivered the lives of the poor from the hand of the bad. Cursed is the day in which I was born, let not the day in which my mother engendered me be blessed. Cursed is the man who brought news to my dad saying, a male child is born to you, making him very glad. And let that man be as the cities that YHWH overthrew and repented not, and let him hear the cry in the morning, and the shouting at noon, because he has not put me to death from the womb, and my mother is to me as my grave, and her womb a pregnancy age lasting. Therefore I came out of the womb to see labor and sorrow, so that my days should be consumed with shame? The word that came to Jeremiah from YHWH, when King Zedekiah sent to him Pashur the son of Melchiah, and Zephaniah the son of Maaseiah the priest, saying, Inquire, I ask you, of YHWH for us, because Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon makes war against us, if so be that YHWH will deal with us according to all his wondrous works, so that he may depart from us. Then Jeremiah replied to them, This is what you will say to Zedekiah, this is what YHWH Elohim of Israel declares, Look, I will turn back the weapons of war that are in your hands, with which you fight against the king of Babylon, and the Chaldeans that besiege you outside the walls, and I will assemble them into the center of this city. And I myself will fight against you with an outstretched hand and with a strong arm, nostrils flaring and in fury, and in great anger. And I will strike the inhabitants of this city, both man and animal, they will die of a great plague. And, afterward, declares YHWH, I will deliver Zedekiah king of Judah and his slaves, and the people, and such as are left in this city from the plague, from the sword, and from the famine, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, and into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of those that seek their life. And he will strike them with the edge of the sword, he will not spare them, neither have pity, nor have mercy. And to this people you will say, This is what YHWH declares, Look, I set before you the way of life, and the way of death. He that remains in this city will die by the sword, and by the famine, and by the plague, but he that goes out, and falls to the Chaldeans that besiege you, he will live, and his life will be to him for a plunder. Because I have set my face against this city for bad, and not for good, declares YHWH, it will be given into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he will burn it with fire. And touching the house of the king of Judah say, Hear you the word of YHWH, O house of David, this is what YHWH declares, Execute judgment in the morning and deliver him that is plundered out of the hand of the oppressor, unless my fury goes out like supernatural fire, and burns so that none can quench it, because of the badness of your practices. Look, I am against you, O inhabitant of the valley and rock of the plain, declares YHWH, which say, Who will come down against us? Or who will enter into our habitations? But I will punish you according to the fruit of your doings, declares YHWH, and I will kindle a fire in the forest, and it will devour all things surrounding it. This is what YHWH declares, Go down to the house of the king of Judah, and speak there this word and say, Hear the word of YHWH, O king of Judah, that sits upon the throne of David, you and your slaves, and your people that enter in by these gates, this is what YHWH declares, Execute judgment and righteousness, and deliver the plundered out of the hand of the oppressor, and do no wrong, do no violence to the foreigner, the fatherless or the widow, neither shed innocent blood in this standing place. Because if you do this thing indeed, then will there enter in by the gates of this house kings sitting on the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses, he and his slaves and his people. But if you will not hear these words, I adjure by myself, declares YHWH, that this temple will become a desolation. Because this is what YHWH declares to the king's house of Judah, You are Gilead to me, and the head of Lebanon, yet surely I will make you a wilderness, and cities that are not inhabited. And I will prepare destroyers against you, everyone with his weapons, and they will cut down your choice cedars, and cast them into the fire. And many nations will pass by this city, and they will say everyone to his neighbor, Why has YHWH done such to this great city? Then they will answer, Because they have forsaken the covenant of YHWH Elohim, and worshipped other Elohim and served them. Weep not for those perished, neither bemoan him, but weep for him that goes away, because he will return no more, nor see his native country. Because this is what YHWH says touching Shallum the son of Josiah king of Judah, that reigned instead of Josiah his dad, that went out of this standing place, he will not return here any more, but he will die in the place where they have led him captive, and will see this land no more. Woe to him that builds his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong, that uses his neighbor's service without wages, and pays him not for his work, that says, I will build me a wide house and large chambers, and cut out windows, and it is covered with cedar and painted with vermilion, red-colored. Will you reign, because you are fretting yourself in cedar? Did not your dad eat and drink, and do judgment and justice, and then it was well with him? He judged the cause of the poor and needy, then it was well with him. Was not this too, know me? Declares YHWH. But your eyes and your heart are set on nothing but for your unjust gain, and for to shed innocent blood, and for oppression, and for violence, to do it. Therefore this is what YHWH declares concerning Jehoiakim the son of Josiah king of Judah, they will not mourn for him saying, Ah my brother. Or, a sister. They will not mourn for him saying, Ah Yhwh. Or, Ah his glory. He will be buried with the burial of a mule, drawn and cast out beyond the gates of Jerusalem. Go up to Lebanon and cry, and lift up your voice in Bashan, and cry from the passages, because all your lovers are destroyed. I spoke to you in your prosperity, but you said, I will not hear. This has been your manner from your youth, that you obey not my voice. The wind will eat up all your shepherds, and your lovers will go into captivity, certainly then will you be ashamed and confounded for all your badness. O inhabitant of Lebanon, that makes your nest in the cedars, how gracious will you be when labor pains come on you, the pain as of a woman in labor. As I live declares Yhwh, though Coniah the son of Jehoiakim king of Judah were the signet on my right hand, still I would pluck you from here, and I will give you into the hand of them that seek your life, and into the hand of them whose face you fear, even into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, and into the hand of the Chaldeans. And I will cast you out, and your mother that gendered you, into another country, where you were not born, and there will you die. But to the land where they desire to return, there they will not return. Is this man Coniah a despised broken idol? Is he a vessel where there is no pleasure? Therefore are they cast out, he and his seed, and are cast into a land that they know not? O earth, 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 hear the word of Yhwh. This is what Yhwh declares, write you this man childless, a man that will not prosper in his days, because no man of his seed will prosper, sitting on the throne of David, and ruling any more in Judah. Woe be to the rulers that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture. Declares Yhwh. Therefore this is what Yhwh Elohim of Israel declares against the rulers, ministers, that feed my people, you have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not attended to them. Look, I will attend upon you the badness of your practices says Yhwh. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries where I have driven them, and will bring them again to their habitations, and they will be fruitful and increase. And I will set up a rulers over them that will feed them, and they will fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither will they be lacking declares Yhwh. Behold, the days come declares Yhwh, that I will raise to David a righteous branch, and a king will reign and act wisely, and will institute judgment and justice in the land. In his days Judah will be saved and Israel will reside safely, and this is his name whereby he will be called, Yhwh our righteousness. Therefore watch, the days come declares Yhwh, that they will no more say, Yhwh lives that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but rather, Yhwh lives that brought up and which led the descendants of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries where I had driven them, and they will live in their own land. My heart within me is broken because of the prophets, all my bones shake, I am like a drunken man, and like a man whom wine has overcome because of Yhwh, and because of the words of his holiness. Because of adulterers has the land been full, for because of these has the land mourned, dried up has been the pleasant places of the wilderness, and their course is wrong, and their might is not right. Because both prophet and priest are defiled, yes, in my temple have I encountered their wrong says Yhwh. Therefore their way will be to them as slippery ways in the darkness, they will be driven on, and fall down, because I will bring bad upon them, even the year of their custody declares Yhwh. And I have seen folly in the prophets of Samaria, they prophesied in Baal, and caused my people Israel to err. I have also seen in the prophets of Jerusalem a horrible thing, they commit adultery, and walk in lies, they strengthen also the hands of the wicked so that none will return from his wickedness. They are all of them to me as Sodom, and its inhabitants as Gomorrah. Therefore this is what Yhwh of hosts declares concerning the prophets, see, I will feed them with wormwood, and make them drink the water of gall, for from the prophets of Jerusalem has hypocrisy gone out into all the land. This is what Yhwh of hosts declares, listen not to the words of the prophets that prophesy to you, they make you vain, they speak a vision of their own heart and not out of the mouth of Yhwh. They still say to them that despise me, Yhwh has said, you will have peace, and they say to everyone that walks after the imagination of his own heart, no bad will come upon you. Because who has stood in the counsel of Yhwh, and has perceived and heard his word? Who has attended to his word and obeyed it? Observe, a whirlwind of Yhwh has gone out in fury, even a grievous whirlwind, it will fall grievously on the head of the wicked. The anger of Yhwh will not return, until he has accomplished it and until he has performed the thoughts of his heart. In the last days you will clearly understand this. I have not sent these prophets, speakers, ministers, rabbis, yet they ran, I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had attended upon my Levitical counsel, and had caused my people to hear my words, then they should have turned themselves from their bad way, and from the badness of their practices. Am I an Elohim at hand, says YHWH, and not an Elohim afar off? Can any hide himself in secret places that I will not see him? Declares YHWH. Do I not fill the cosmos and earth, says YHWH? I have heard what the prophets said, that prophesy lies in my name, saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed. How long will this be in the heart of the prophets that prophesy lies? Yes, they are prophets of the deceit of their own heart, who think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams that they tell everyone to his neighbor, as their forefathers have forgotten my name for Baal. The prophet that has a dream, let him tell a dream, and he that has my word, let him speak my word faithfully. What is the chaff to the wheat, asks YHWH. Is not my word like a supernatural fire? Declares YHWH, and like a hammer that breaks the rock in pieces? Therefore note, I am against the prophets, declares YHWH, that steal my words, everyone from his neighbor. See, I am against the prophets, declares YHWH, that use their tongues and say, he declares. Look, I am against them that prophesy false dreams, declares YHWH, and do tell them, and cause my people to err by their lies, and by their frivolity. Still I sent them not, nor commanded them, therefore they will not profit this people at all, declares YHWH. And when this people, or the prophet or a priest will ask you, saying, what is the burden of YHWH? You will then say to them, what burden? I will even forsake you, declares YHWH. And as for the prophet, priest, and the people that will say, the burden of YHWH, I will even punish that man and his house. You will tell everyone to his neighbor, and everyone to his brother, what has YHWH answered? And, what has YHWH spoken? And the burden of YHWH will you mention no more, because every man's word will be his burden, because you have perverted the words of the living Elohim, of YHWH of hosts our Elohim. This is what you will say to the prophet, what has YHWH answered you, and what has YHWH spoken? But since you say, the burden of YHWH, therefore this is what YHWH declares, because you say this word, the burden of YHWH, and I have sent to you saying, you will not say, the burden of YHWH, therefore, note, I, even I, will utterly forget you, and I will forsake you, and the city that I gave you and your forefathers, and will cast you out of my presence, and I will bring an age-lasting reproach upon you, and an age-lasting shame that will not wither. YHWH showed me, and look, 2 baskets of figs were set before the temple of YHWH after Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon had carried away captive Jeconiah the son of Jehoiakim king of Judah, and the princes of Judah, with the carpenters and smiths, from Jerusalem, and had brought them to Babylon. 1 basket had very good figs, even like the figs that are first ripe, and the other basket had very bad figs that could not be eaten, they were so bad. Then YHWH said to me, what do you see, Jeremiah? And I replied, figs, the good figs, very good, and the bad, very bad, that cannot be eaten, they are badness. Again the word of YHWH came to me, saying, this is what YHWH, the Elohim of Israel declares, like these good figs, so will I acknowledge them that are carried away captive of Judah, who I have sent out of this standing place into the land of the Chaldeans for their good. Because I will set my eyes on them for good, and I will return them again to this land, and I will rebuild them and not pull them down, and I will plant them and not pluck them up. And I will give them a heart to know me, that I am YHWH, and they will be my people and I will be their Elohim, because they will return to me with their whole heart. And like the bad figs that are not eaten for badness, surely so declares YHWH, so do I make Zedekiah king of Judah and his chiefs, and the remnant of Jerusalem, who are left in this land, and who are living in the land of Egypt, and I will deliver them to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth for their calamity, to be a reproach and a proverb, a taunt and a curse, in all places where I will drive them. And I will send the sword, the famine, and the plague, among them until they are consumed from off the land that I gave to them and to their ancestors. The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah king of Judah, that was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, which Jeremiah the prophet spoke to all the people of Judah, and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, from the 13th year of Josiah the son of Ammon king of Judah, even to this day, that is the 23rd year, the word of YHWH has come to me, and I have spoken to you, rising early and speaking, but you have not listened. And YHWH has sent to you all his slaves the prophets, rising early and sending them, but you have not listened, or inclined your ear to hear. They said, turn you again now everyone from his bad way, and from the badness of your practices, and live in the land that YHWH has given to you and to your ancestors for the ages of ages, and go not after other Elohim to serve them and to worship them, and provoke me not to anger with the works of your hands, and I will do you no bad. Still you have not listened to me, declares YHWH, that you might provoke me to anger with the works of your hands to your own hurt. Therefore this is what YHWH of hosts declares, because you have not heard my words, watch, I will send and take all the families of the north, says YHWH, and Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon my slave, and will bring them against this land, its inhabitants, and against all these surrounding nations. And I will devote them to destruction, and make them an appalment and a hissing, and an age-lasting waste. Moreover I will take from them the voice of rejoicing, and the voice of gaiety, the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride, the sound of the hand mills, and the light of the candle. And this whole land will be a desolation and an appalment, and these nations will serve the king of Babylon 70 years. And it will come to pass, when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, declares YHWH, for their depravity and the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it an age-lasting waste. And I will bring on that land all my words that I have pronounced against it, even all that is written in this scroll that Jeremiah has prophesied against all the nations. Because a number of nations and great kings will make slaves of them, and I will compensate them according to their deeds, and according to the works of their own hands. Because this is what YHWH Elohim of Israel says to me, take the wine cup of this fury at my hand, and cause all the nations, to where I send you, to drink it. And they will drink, and be tossed to and fro, and act madly, because of the sword that I will send among them. Then I took the cup at YHWH's hand, and made all the nations to drink, to wherever YHWH had sent me, Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, and its kings, and its chiefs, to make them a waste, an appalment, a hissing and a curse, as it is this day, Pharaoh king of Egypt and his slaves, and his princes, and all his people, and all the mixed races of people, and all the kings of the land of Uz, and all the kings of the land of the Philistines, and Ashkelon, and Azza, and Ekron, and the remnant of Ashdod, Edom, Moab, and the children of Ammon, and all the kings of Tyrus, and all the kings of Zidon, and the kings of the isles that are beyond the sea, Dedan, Tema, and Buz, and all that are in the cut-off extremities, and all the kings of Arabia, and all the kings of the mixed races of people that live in the desert, and all the kings of Zimri, and all the kings of Elam, and all the kings of the Medes, and all the kings of the north, far and near, one with another, and all the kingdoms of the world that are on the face of the earth, and the king of Shishak will drink after them. Therefore you will say to them, this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, drink and be drunken, vomit and fall, and rise no more, because of the sword that I will send among you. And it will be, if they refuse to take the cup at your hand to drink, then you will say to them, this is what YHWH of hosts declares, you will certainly drink. For lo, I begin to bring bad on the city that is called by my name, and should you be utterly unpunished? You will not be unpunished, because I will call for a sword upon all the inhabitants of the earth, declares YHWH of hosts. Therefore prophesy against them all these words and say to them, YHWH will roar from on high and utter his voice from his sacred habitation. He will mightily roar on his abode of shepherds, he will give a shout, as they that tread the grapes, against all the inhabitants of the earth. A noise will come even to the extremities of the earth, because YHWH has a controversy with the nations, he will plead with all flesh, he will give them that are wicked to the sword, declares YHWH. This is what YHWH of hosts declares, look, bad will go out from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind will be raised up from the coasts of the earth. And the slain of YHWH will be at that day from one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth, they will not be mourned, neither gathered or buried, they will be dung upon the ground. Wail you rulers and cry, and roll yourselves in the ashes, you nobles of the flock, because the days of your slaughter and of your dispersions are accomplished, and you will fall like a pleasant vessel. And the rulers will have no way to flee, nor the nobles of the flock to escape. A voice of the cry of the rulers, and a wailing of the nobles of the flock, will be heard, because YHWH has plundered their pasture. And the peaceable habitations are cut down because of the fierce anger of YHWH. He has forsaken his lair, as the lion, for their land is desolate because of the fierceness of the oppressor, and because of his fierce anger. In the beginning of the reign of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah king of Judah came this word from YHWH saying, this is what YHWH declares, stand in the court of YHWH's temple, and speak to all the cities of Judah that come to worship in YHWH's house, all the words that I command you to speak to them, restrain not a word, if so be they will listen, and turn everyone from his bad way, that I may regret myself of the badness that I purpose to do to them because of the badness of their practices. And you will say to them, this is what YHWH declares, if you will not listen to me, to walk in my law that I have set before you, to listen to the words of my slaves the prophets, who I sent to you, both rising up early and sending them, but you have not listened. Then I will devote this house like Shiloh, and will make this city a curse to all the nations of the earth. So the priests and the prophets and all the people heard Jeremiah speaking these words in the temple of YHWH. Now it came to pass, when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking all that YHWH had commanded him to speak to all the people, that the priests and the prophets and all the people took him saying, "You will certainly die. Why have you prophesied in the name of YHWH saying, this temple will be like Shiloh, and this city will be waste without an inhabitant?" And all the people were gathered against Jeremiah in the temple of YHWH. When the chiefs of Judah heard these things, then they came up from the king's house to the temple of YHWH, and sat down in the entry of the new gate of YHWH's temple. Then the priests and the prophets spoke to the chiefs and to all the people saying, "This man is worthy to die, because he has prophesied against this city, as you have heard with your ears." Then Jeremiah spoke to all the chiefs and to all the people saying, "YHWH sent me to prophesy against this temple and against this city all the words that you have heard. Therefore now amend your ways and your practices, and obey the voice of YHWH Elohim, and YHWH will regret himself for the bad that he has pronounced against you. As for me, see, I am in your hand, do with me as seems good and correct to you. But know for certain that if you put me to death, you will certainly bring innocent blood on yourselves, and on this city and on its inhabitants, because of a truth YHWH has sent me to you to speak all these words in your ears." Then the chiefs and all the people said to the priests and to the prophets, "This man is not worthy to die, because he has spoken to us in the name of YHWH Elohim." Then rose up certain of the elders of the land and spoke to all the company of the people saying, "Micah the Merezite prophesied in the days of Hezekiah king of Judah, and spoke to all the people of Judah saying, This is what YHWH of hosts declares, Zion will be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem will become a heap of ruins and the mountain of the house a wooded height." Did Hezekiah king of Judah and all Judah put him at all to death? Did he not fear YHWH? Yes, he appeased the face of YHWH, and YHWH regretted concerning the bad that he spoke against them, and we are doing great wrong against our lives. And there was also a man that prophesied in the name of YHWH, Uriah the son of Shemaiah of Kirath-Jearim, who prophesied against this city and against this land according to all the words of Jeremiah. And when Jehoiakim the king, with all his mighty men, and all the chiefs heard his words, the king desired to put him to death. But when Uriah heard it, he was afraid and fled and went into Egypt. And Jehoiakim the king sent men into Egypt, namely Elnathan the son of Achbor, and certain men with him into Egypt. And they brought Uriah out of Egypt, and led him to Jehoiakim the king, who killed him with the sword and cast his corpse into the graves of the common people. Nevertheless the hand of Ahikam the son of Shaphan was with Jeremiah, that they should not give him into the hand of the people to put him to death. In the beginning of the reign of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah king of Judah came this word to Jeremiah from YHWH saying, "This is what YHWH says to me, make yourself bonds and yokes, and put them on your neck, and send them to the king of Edom, and to the king of Moab, and to the king of the Ammonites, and to the king of Tyrus, and to the king of Zidon, by the hand of the messengers that come to Jerusalem to Zedekiah king of Judah, and command them to say to their masters, This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, this you will say to your masters, I have fashioned the earth, the man and the animal that are on the ground, by my great power and by my outstretched arm, and have given it to whom it seemed agreeable to me. And now I have given all these lands into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon my slave, and the animals of the field I have given him also to serve him. And all nations will serve him, and his son, and his son's son, until the time comes for his land to be overcome, and then many nations and great kings will serve themselves of him. And it will come to pass that the nation and kingdom that will not serve this same Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon, and that will not put their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon, that nation I will punish declares YHWH, with the sword, famine, and plague until I have consumed them by his hand. Therefore do not listen to your prophets, diviners, dreamers, soothsayers, or to your sorcerers that speak to you saying, You will not serve the king of Babylon, because they prophesy a lie to you, to remove you far from your land, and that I should drive you out, and you should perish. But the nations that brings their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon and serve him, those I will let remain still in their own land declares YHWH, and they will till it and reside there. I spoke also to Zedekiah king of Judah according to all these words saying, Bring your necks under the yoke of the king of Babylon, and serve him and his people, and live. Why will you die, you and your people, by the sword, famine, and plague as YHWH has spoken against the nation that will not serve the king of Babylon? Therefore listen not to the words of the prophets that speak to you saying, You will not serve the king of Babylon, because they prophesy a lie to you. Because I have not sent them, declares YHWH, still they prophesy a lie in my name, that I might drive you out, and that you might perish, you and the prophets that prophesy to you. Also I spoke to the priests and to all this people, saying, This is what YHWH declares, listen not to the words of your prophets that prophesy to you, saying, See, the vessels of YHWH's temple will now shortly be brought again from Babylon, because they prophesy a lie to you. Listen not to them, serve the king of Babylon and live. Why should this city be laid waste? But if they are prophets, and if the word of YHWH is with them, let them now make intercession to YHWH of hosts, so that the vessels that are left in the temple of YHWH, and in the house of the king of Judah and at Jerusalem, go not to Babylon. Because this is what YHWH of hosts declares concerning the pillars, and concerning the sea, and concerning the bases, and concerning the rest of the vessels that remain in this city, which Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon did not take, when he carried away captive Jeconiah the son of Jehoiakim king of Judah from Jerusalem to Babylon, and all the nobles of Judah and Jerusalem. Yes, this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, declares concerning the vessels that remain in the temple of YHWH, and in the house of the king of Judah and of Jerusalem. They will be carried to Babylon, and there will they be until the day that I visit them, declares YHWH, then I will bring them up, and restore them to this standing place. And it came about the same year, in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah king of Judah, in the 4th year, and in the 5th month, that Hananiah the son of Azur the prophet, that was of Gibeon, spoke to me in the temple of YHWH, in the presence of the priests and of all the people, saying, YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel speaks, saying, I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Within 2 full years I will return to this place all the vessels of YHWH's temple, that Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon took away from this standing place, and carried them to Babylon, and I will return to this standing place Jeconiah the son of Jehoiakim king of Judah, with all the captives of Judah, that went into Babylon, declares YHWH, because I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon. Then the prophet Jeremiah said to the prophet Hananiah in the presence of the priests, and in the presence of all the people that stood in the temple of YHWH, even the prophet Jeremiah said, Truly, YHWH do so, YHWH perform your words that you have prophesied, to return the vessels of YHWH's temple, and all that is carried away captive, from Babylon into this standing place. Nevertheless hear you now this word that I speak in your ears, and in the ears of all the people. The prophets that have been before me and before you of old prophesied both against many countries, and against great kingdoms, of war, and of bad, and of plague. The prophet that prophesies of peace, when the word of the prophet will come to pass, then will that prophet be revealed, that YHWH has truly sent him. Then Hananiah the prophet took the yoke from off the prophet Jeremiah's neck and broke it. Then Hananiah spoke in the presence of all the people, saying, This is what YHWH declares, even so will I break the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon from the neck of all nations within the space of 2 full years. And the prophet Jeremiah went his way. Then the word of YHWH came to Jeremiah the prophet, after that Hananiah the prophet had broken the yoke from off the neck of the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Go and tell Hananiah, saying, This is what YHWH declares, You have broken the yokes of wood, but you will make for them yokes of iron. Because this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, declares, I have put a yoke of iron on the neck of all these nations, that they may serve Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, and they will serve him, and I have given him the animals of the field also. Then the prophet Jeremiah said to Hananiah the prophet, Listen now, Hananiah, YHWH has not sent you, but you make this people to trust in a lie. Therefore this is what YHWH declares, Look, I will cast you from off the face of the earth, this year you will die, because you have taught rebellion against YHWH. So Hananiah the prophet died the same year in the 7th month. Now these are the words of the letter that Jeremiah the prophet sent from Jerusalem to the rest of the elders that were carried away captives, and to the priests, and to the prophets, and to all the people who Nebuchadnezzar had carried away captive from Jerusalem to Babylon. After that Jeconiah the king, queen, and the eunuchs, the princes of Judah and Jerusalem, and the carpenters, and the smiths, were departed from Jerusalem, by the hand of Elasah the son of Shaphan, and Gemariah the son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah king of Judah sent to Babylon to Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, saying, This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares to all that are carried away captives, who I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem to Babylon, Build yourselves houses and live in them, and plant gardens, and eat the produce from them, take yourselves wives, and gender sons and daughters, and take women for your sons, and give your daughters to husbands so that they may gender sons and daughters, so that you may be increased there and not few. And seek the peace of the city where I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray to YHWH for it, because in its peace will you have peace. Because this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, let not your prophets and your diviners, that are among you deceive you, neither listen to your dreams that you cause to be dreamed. Because they prophesy falsely to you in my name, I have not sent them, declares YHWH. Because this is what YHWH declares, that after 70 years are accomplished at Babylon I will visit you, and perform my good word toward you, in causing you to return to this standing place. Because I know the thoughts that I think toward you, declares YHWH, thoughts of peace, and not of bad, to give you hope in the last days. Then will you call on me, and you will go and pray to me, and I will listen to you. And you will seek me, and find me, when you will search for me with all your heart. And I will be found of you, declares YHWH, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations, and from all the regions where I have driven you, declares YHWH. And I will return you again to the standing place where I caused you to be carried away captive from. Because you have said, YHWH has raised up prophets in Babylon, know what YHWH says of the king that sits on the throne of David, and of all the people that live in this city, and of your kinsmen that are not gone with you into captivity. This is what YHWH of hosts declares, look, I will send on them the sword, famine, and plague, and will make them like vile figs, that cannot be eaten, they are so bad. And I will persecute them with the sword, famine, and plague, and will deliver them to be removed to all the kingdoms of the earth, to be a curse and an appalment, and an hissing and a scorn, among all the nations where I have driven them, because they have not listened to my words, declares YHWH, that I sent to them by my slaves the prophets, rising up early and sending them. But you would not hear, says YHWH. Listen therefore to the word of YHWH, all you of the captivity, who I have sent from Jerusalem to Babylon. This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, of Ahab the son of Kaliah, and of Zedekiah the son of Maaseiah that prophesy a lie to you in my name. Watch, I will deliver them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, and he will kill them before your eyes, and of them will be taken up a curse by all the captivity of Judah that are in Babylon, saying, YHWH make you like Zedekiah and like Ahab, who the king of Babylon roasted in the fire, because they have committed villainy in Israel, and have committed adultery with their neighbors' women, and have spoken lying words in my name that I have not commanded them. Even I know and am a witness, declares YHWH. You will also speak to Shemaiah the Nehelamite, saying, this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, saying, because you have sent letters in your name to all the people that are at Jerusalem, and to Zephaniah the son of Maaseiah the priest, and to all the priests, saying, YHWH has made you priest in the place of Jehoiada the priest, so that you should be officers in the temple of YHWH, for every man that is mad, and makes himself a prophet, so that you should put him in prison, and in the stocks. Now therefore why have you not rebuked Jeremiah of Anatoth that makes himself a prophet to you? For therefore he sent to us in Babylon, saying, this captivity is long, build yourselves houses, and live in them, and plant gardens, and eat its produce. And Zephaniah the priest read this letter in the ears of Jeremiah the prophet. Then came the word of YHWH to Jeremiah, saying, send to all them of the captivity, saying, this is what YHWH declares concerning Shemaiah the Nehelamite, because that Shemaiah has prophesied to you, and I sent him not, and he caused you to trust in a lie. Therefore this is what YHWH declares, see, I will punish Shemaiah the Nehelamite, and his offspring. He will not have a man to live among this people, neither will he see the good that I will do for my people, declares YHWH, because he has taught rebellion against YHWH. The word that came to Jeremiah from YHWH, saying, YHWH Elohim of Israel declares, saying, write all the words that I have spoken to you in a scroll. For lo, the days come, declares YHWH, that I will return the captivity of my people Israel. And Judah, says YHWH, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their forefathers, and they will possess it. And these are the words that YHWH spoke concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For YHWH declares, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask you now, and see whether a man does labor with child? Why do I see every man with his hands on his hips, as a woman in labor, and all faces are turned into paleness? Alas! For that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he will be saved out of it. Because it will come to pass in that day, declares YHWH of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off your neck, and will burst your bonds, and foreigners will no more serve themselves of him, but they will serve YHWH Elohim, and David their king, whom I will raise up to them. Therefore do not fear, O my slave Jacob, says YHWH, neither be dismayed, O Israel. Because I will save you from afar, and your descendants from the land of their captivity, and Jacob will return, and will be in rest, and quiet, and none will make him afraid. Because I am with you, declares YHWH, to save you, though I make a full end of all nations where I have scattered you, still I will not make a full end of you, but I will correct you in measure, and will not leave you altogether unpunished. Because YHWH declares, your bruise is incurable, and your wound is grievous. There is none to plead your cause so that you may be bound up, you have no healing medicines. All your lovers have forgotten you, they seek you not, because I have wounded you with the wound of an enemy, with the discipline of a cruel one, for the multitude of your depravities, because your sins were increased. Why cry because of your affliction? Your sorrow is incurable for the multitude of your depravities, because your sins were increased, I have done these things to you. Nevertheless, all they that devour you will be devoured, and all your adversaries, every one of them will go into captivity, and they that plunder you will be a spoil, and all that prey on you will I give for a booty. Because I will restore health to you, and I will heal you of your wounds, declares YHWH, because they called you saying, this is Zion, who no man inquires after. This is what YHWH declares, see, I will return the captivity of Jacob's tents, and have mercy on his living places, and the city will be rebuilt upon her own ruins, and the palace according to its ordinance remains. And out of them will proceed thanksgiving and the voice of them that play, and I will multiply them, and they will not be few, I will also glorify them, and they will not be small. Their children also will be as in earlier times, and their company will be established before me, and I will punish all that oppress them. And their nobles will be of themselves, and their governor will proceed from among them, and I will cause him to approach and he will draw near to me, because who is this that engaged his heart to approach to me? Declares YHWH. And you will be my people and I will be your Elohim. Observe, the whirlwind of YHWH goes forth with heat and storm, it will dance on the head of the wicked. The fierce anger of YHWH will not return, until he has accomplished it, and until he has performed the intents of his heart, in the last days you will consider it. At the same time declares YHWH, I will be the Elohim of all the families of Israel and they will be my people. YHWH declares, the people which were left of the sword found grace in the wilderness, even Israel, when I went to cause him to rest. YHWH has appeared of old to me saying, yes, I have loved you with an age-lasting love, therefore I have extended lovingkindness to you. Again I will rebuild you, and you will be rebuilt, O Virgin of Israel, you will again be adorned with your tambourines and will go out in the dances of them that sing and dance. You will yet plant vineyards on the mountains of Samaria, the planters will plant and will eat them as common things. Because there will be a day that the watchman on Mount Ephraim will cry, arise you, and let us go up to Zion to YHWH Elohim. Because this is what YHWH declares, sing O you, to Jacob with joy, and cry aloud at the head of the nations, sound you, praise you, and say, save O YHWH your people, the remnant of Israel. Observe, I will bring them from the north country and gather them from the coasts of the earth, and with them the blind and the lame, the woman with child and her that labors with child together, a great company will return. They will come with weeping, and with supplications I will lead them, I will cause them to walk by the torrents of waters, waterfalls, in an upright manner, where they will not stumble, because I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the word of YHWH O you nations, and declare it in the isles afar off and say, he that scattered Israel will gather him, and guard him as a shepherd does his flock. Because YHWH has ransomed Jacob, and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. Therefore they will come and sing in the height of Zion, and will flow together to the goodness of YHWH, for wheat, wine, oil, and for the young of the flock and of the herd. And their lives will be as a watered garden, and they will not sorrow any more at all. Then will the virgin rejoice in the dance, both young men and old together, because I will turn their mourning into joy, and will comfort them, and make them rejoice from their sorrow. And I will satiate the lives of the priests with fatness, and my people will be satisfied with my goodness, declares YHWH. YHWH declares, a voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children refused to be comforted for her children, because they were not. YHWH declares, refrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, because your work will be rewarded, says YHWH, and they will return from the land of the enemy. And there is hope in your last days, declares YHWH, that your children will return to their own territory. I have certainly heard Ephraim bemoaning himself, you have disciplined me, and I was admonished, as a bull calf unaccustomed to the yoke, turn you me, and I will be turned, because you are YHWH my Elohim. For after my turning back I repented, and after my being instructed I struck on the thigh, I have been ashamed, I have also blushed, for I have borne the reproach of my youth. Is Ephraim my dear son? Is he a pleasant child? For since I have spoken against him, I do earnestly remember him still, therefore my bowels are troubled for him. I will certainly have mercy on him, declares YHWH. Set you up signposts, make yourself guideposts, set your heart toward the highway, even the way that you went, to return, O Virgin of Israel, return to these your cities. How long will you turn away, O you backsliding daughter? Because YHWH has created a new thing in the earth, a woman will skirt around a man. This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, as yet they will use this speech in the land of Judah and in their cities, when I will return their captivity. YHWH bless you, O habitation of justice, and sacred mountain. And there will live in Judah itself, and in all the cities together, farmers, and they that go out with flocks. Because I have satiated the weary person, and I have replenished every sorrowful life. On this I have awakened, and I looked, and my sleep has been sweet to me. Watch, the days come, declares YHWH, that I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man, and with the seed of animals. And it will come to pass, as I watched over them to pluck up, and to break down, and to throw down and to destroy, and to afflict, so will I watch over them to rebuild, and to plant, an affirmation of YHWH. In those days they will say no more, the fathers have eaten a sour grape, and the children's teeth are set on edge. But everyone will die for his own depravity, every human being that eats the sour grape, their teeth will be set on edge. Watch, the days come, declares YHWH, that I will cut out a new covenant with the house of Israel, and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I cut out with their forefathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant which they violated, although I was a husband to them, declares YHWH, but this will be the covenant that I will cut out with the house of Israel. After those days, declares YHWH, I will put my Torah in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts, and will be their Elohim, and they will be my people. And they will teach no more everyone his neighbor, and everyone his brother, saying, Know YHWH, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, declares YHWH, because I will pardon their depravity, and I will remember their sin no more. This is what YHWH says, that gives the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divides the sea when its waves roar. YHWH of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, declares YHWH, then the descendants of Israel also will cease from being a nation before me for the ages. This is what YHWH declares, if the cosmos above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the descendants of Israel for all that they have done, says YHWH. Watch, the days come, declares YHWH, that the city will be rebuilt to YHWH from the tower of Hananel to the corner gate. Then the measuring line will go out farther, straight to the hill Gareb, and will then turn to Goah. And the whole valley of corpses, and of the ashes, and all the fields to the wadi of Kidron, to the corner of the horse gate toward the east, will become holy to YHWH, it will not be plucked up, nor thrown down any more for the ages. The word that came to Jeremiah from YHWH in the 10th year of Zedekiah king of Judah, that was the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar. Because then the king of Babylon's army besieged Jerusalem, and Jeremiah the prophet was shut up in the court of the prison that was in the king of Judah's house. Because Zedekiah king of Judah had shut him up, saying, Why do you prophesy, and say, This is what YHWH declares, See, I will give this city into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he will capture it, and Zedekiah king of Judah will not escape out of the hand of the Chaldeans, but will certainly be delivered into the hand of the king of Babylon, and will speak with him mouth to mouth, and his eyes will see his eyes, and he will lead Zedekiah to Babylon, and there will he stay until I visit him, declares YHWH, though you fight with the Chaldeans, you will not prosper. Then Jeremiah said, The word of YHWH came to me, saying, Observe, Hanameel the son of Shallum your uncle will come to you, saying, Buy yourself my field that is in Anatoth, for the right of redemption is yours to buy it. So Hanameel my uncle's son came to me in the court of the prison according to the word of YHWH, and said to me, Buy my field, I ask you, that is in Anatoth, which is in the country of Benjamin, for the right of inheritance is yours. And the redemption is yours, buy it for yourself. Then I knew that this was the word of YHWH. And I bought the field of Hanameel my uncle's son, that was in Anatoth, and weighed him the money, even 17 shekels, 7 ounces, of silver. And I subscribed the evidence and sealed it, and took witnesses and weighed him the money in the balances. So I took the evidence of the purchase, both what was sealed according to the law and custom, and the unsealed copy, and I gave the evidence of the purchase to Baruch the son of Neriah, the son of Maaseiah, in the sight of Hanameel my uncle's son, and in the presence of the witnesses that subscribed the scroll of the purchase, before all the Jews that sat in the court of the prison. And I charged Baruch before them saying, This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, take these evidences, this evidence of the purchase, both that is sealed, and this evidence which is unsealed, and put them in an earthen vessel so that they may continue many days. Because this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, houses and fields and vineyards will be possessed again in this land. Now when I had delivered the evidence of the purchase to Baruch the son of Neriah, I prayed to YHWH saying, Ah YHWH Elohim. See, you have fashioned the cosmos and the earth by your great power and stretched out arm, and there is nothing too hard for you. You show goodness to thousands, and recompense the depravity of the forefathers into the bosom of their children after them. The great, the mighty Elohim, YHWH of hosts is his name, great in counsel, and mighty in work, because your eyes are open on all the ways of the sons of men, to give everyone according to his ways, and according to the fruit of his practices, that has set signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, even to this day and in Israel, and among other men, and has appointed you a name that continues to this day, and has brought out your people Israel out of the land of Egypt with signs and with wonders, and with a strong hand and with a stretched out arm, and with great terror, and has given them this land that you did adjure to their forefathers to give them, a land flowing with milk and honey, and they came in, and possessed it, but they obeyed not your voice. Neither walked in your law, they have done nothing of all that you commanded them to do, therefore you have caused all this bad to come on them. Observe the mounts, they are come to the city to capture it, and the city is given into the hand of the Chaldeans that fight against it, because of the sword, famine, and the plague, and what you have spoken has come to pass, and, note, you see it. And you have said to me, O YHWH Elohim, buy yourself the field for money and take witnesses, because the city is given into the hand of the Chaldeans. Then came the word of YHWH to Jeremiah saying, See, I am YHWH, the Elohim of all flesh, is there anything too hard for me? Therefore this is what YHWH declares, Look, I will give this city into the hand of the Chaldeans, and into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, and he will capture it, and the Chaldeans that fight against this city, will come and set fire on this city, and burn it with the houses, upon whose roofs they have offered incense to Baal, and poured out drink offerings to other Elohim, to provoke me to anger. Because the children of Israel and the children of Judah have only done badness before me from their youth, because the children of Israel have only provoked me to anger with the work of their hands, declares YHWH. Because this city has been to me as a provocation of my anger and of my fury from the day that they built it even to this day, that I should remove it from before my face, because of all the badness of the children of Israel and of the children of Judah that they have done to provoke me to anger, they, their kings, their chiefs, their priests and their prophets, and the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And they have turned to me their back, and not their face, though I taught them, rising up early and teaching them, still they have not listened to receive instruction. But they set their abominations in the temple that is called by my name, to defile it. And they built the worship places of Baal that are in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire to Moloch. This I never commanded them, neither came it into my mind, that they should do this abomination, to cause Judah to sin. And now therefore this is what YHWH, the Elohim of Israel declares concerning this city, where you say, It will be delivered into the hand of the king of Babylon by the sword, famine, and plague. Look, I will gather them out of all countries where I have driven them in my anger, and in my rage, and in great wrath, and I will return them again to this standing place, and I will cause them to live safely, and they will be my people, and I will be their Elohim, and I will give them one heart, and one way, that they may fear me for the ages, for the good of them, and of their children after them, and I will cut out an age-lasting covenant with them, that I will not turn away from them, to do them good, but I will put my respect in their hearts so that they will not depart from me. Yes, I will rejoice over them to do them good, and I will plant them in this land assuredly with my whole heart and with my whole mind. Because this is what YHWH declares, just as I have brought all this great badness on this people, so will I bring on them all the good that I have promised them. And fields will be acquired in this land where you say, It is desolate without man or animal, it is given into the hand of the Chaldeans. Men will buy fields for money, and subscribe evidences and seal them, and take witnesses in the land of Benjamin, and in the places around Jerusalem and in the cities of Judah, and in the cities of the mountains, and in the cities of the valley and in the cities of the south, because I will cause their captivity to return, declares YHWH. Moreover the word of YHWH came to Jeremiah the second time, while he was still shut up in the court of the prison saying, This is what YHWH the Maker declares, YHWH that formed it, to establish it, YHWH is his name, call to me and I will answer you, and show you great and mighty things that you do not know. Because this is what YHWH, Elohim of Israel declares concerning the houses of this city, And concerning the houses of the kings of Judah that are thrown down by the mounts, and by the sword, they come to fight with the Chaldeans, but it is to fill them with the corpses of men who I have killed in my anger and in my fury, and for whom I have hidden my face from this city, because of all their badness. Look, I will bring it health and cure, and I will cure them and will reveal to them the abundance of peace and truth. And I will cause the captivity of Judah and the captivity of Israel to return, and will rebuild them as at the first. And I will cleanse them from all their depravity in which they have sinned against me, and I will pardon all their depravities in which they have sinned, and by which they have revolted against me. And it will be to me a name of joy, a praise and an honor before all the nations of the earth that will hear all the good that I do to them, and they will fear and tremble for all the goodness and for all the prosperity that I procure to it. This is what YHWH declares. Again there will be heard in this standing place which you say will be desolate without man and without animal, even in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, that are desolate, without man and without inhabitant, and without animal. The voice of joy and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the voice of them that will say, Praise YHWH of hosts. Because YHWH is good, because his mercy endures for the ages, and of them that will bring the sacrifice of praise into the temple of YHWH. Because I will cause to return the captivity of the land as at the first, says YHWH. This is what YHWH of hosts declares. Again in this standing place that is desolate without man and without animal, and in all its cities, will be a habitation of shepherds causing their flocks to lie down. In the cities of the mountains, in the cities of the lowland, and in the cities of the south, and in the land of Benjamin, and in the places around Jerusalem and in the cities of Judah, shall the flocks pass again under the hands of him that numbers them, declares YHWH. Watch, the days come declares YHWH, that I will perform that good thing which I have promised to the house of Israel and to the house of Judah. In those days and at that time, I will cause the branch of righteousness to grow up to David, and he will execute judgment and righteousness in the land. In those days will Judah be saved, and Jerusalem will live safely, and this is the name by which she will be called, YHWH our righteousness, YHWH Angatong Pegkamatarong. Because this is what YHWH declares, David will never fail a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel, neither will the priests the Levites fail a man before me to offer whole burnt offerings and to burn incense, and to do sacrifice continually. And the word of YHWH came to Jeremiah saying, This is what YHWH declares, if you can break my covenant of the day, and my covenant of the night, and that there should not be day and night in their season, then may also my covenant be broken with David my slave so that he should not have a son to reign on his throne, and with the Levites the priests, my ministers. As the stars of the cosmos cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured, so will I multiply the descendants of David my slave, and the Levites that minister to me. Moreover the word of YHWH came to Jeremiah saying, Consider you not what this people have spoken, saying, The two families, Judah and Levi, that YHWH has chosen, he has even cast them off? Thus they have despised my people so that they should be no more a nation before them. This is what YHWH declares, if my covenant is not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of the cosmos and earth, then I will cast away the descendants of Jacob, and David my slave, so that I will not take any of his offspring to be rulers over the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because I will cause their captivity to return, and have mercy on them. The word that came to Jeremiah from YHWH, when Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon and all his army, and all the kingdoms of the earth of his dominion, and all the people, fought against Jerusalem and against all its cities saying, This is what YHWH, the Elohim of Israel declares, Go and speak to Zedekiah king of Judah, and tell him, This is what YHWH declares, Look, I will give this city into the hand of the king of Babylon and he will burn it with fire, and you will not escape out of his hand, but will certainly be seized, and delivered into his hand, and your eyes will see the eyes of the king of Babylon, and he will speak with you mouth to mouth, and you will go to Babylon. Also hear the word of YHWH, O Zedekiah king of Judah, this is what YHWH says of you, you will not die by the sword, but you will die in peace, and with the burnings of your forefathers, the former kings that were before you, so will they burn odors for you, and they will mourn you saying, Ah YHWH. Because I have pronounced the word, declares YHWH. Then Jeremiah the prophet spoke all these words to Zedekiah king of Judah in Jerusalem, when the king of Babylon's army fought against Jerusalem, and against all the cities of Judah that were left, against Lachish and against Azekah, because these fortified cities remained of the cities of Judah. This is the word that came to Jeremiah from YHWH, after that King Zedekiah had made a league with all the people that were at Jerusalem, to proclaim liberty to them, that every man should let his male slave, and every man his female slave, being in Hebrew or in Hebrews go free, so as not to lay service on them, any on a Jew his brother. Now when all the chiefs and all the people that had entered into the league, heard that everyone should let his male slave, and everyone his female slave go free, so that none should serve themselves of them any more, then they obeyed and let them go. But afterward they turned and caused the slaves and the slave girls, who they had let go free, to return, and brought them into subjection for slaves and for slave girls. Therefore the word of YHWH came to Jeremiah from YHWH saying, This is what YHWH, the Elohim of Israel declares, I made a covenant with your forefathers in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery saying, At the end of 7 years let go every man his brother a Hebrew that has been sold to you, and when he has served you 6 years, you will let him go free from you. But your forefathers did not listen to me, neither inclined their ear. And you were now turned, and had done right in my sight, in proclaiming liberty every man to his neighbor, and you had made a league before me in the temple that is called by my name, but you turned and desecrated my name, and caused every man his slave, and every man his slave girl, who you had set at liberty at their pleasure, to return, and brought them into subjection, to be to you for slaves and for slave girls. Therefore this is what YHWH declares, You have not listened to me in proclaiming liberty, everyone to his brother and every man to his neighbor. Look, I proclaim a liberty for you declares YHWH, to the sword, to the plague, and to the famine, and I will make you to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And I will give the men that have transgressed my covenant that have not performed the words of the covenant that they had made before me, when they cut the calf in two and passed between its parts, the chiefs of Judah and the princes of Jerusalem, the eunuchs and the priests, and all the people of the land that passed between the parts of the calf, I will even give them into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of them that seek their life, and their corpses will be for meat to the flying creatures of the sky, and to the animals of the earth. And Zedekiah king of Judah and his princes I will give into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of them that seek their life, and into the hand of the king of Babylon's army that are gone up from you. Observe, I will command declares YHWH, and cause them to return to this city, and they will fight against it and capture it, and burn it with fire, and I will make the cities of Judah a desolation without an inhabitant. The word that came to Jeremiah from YHWH in the days of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah king of Judah saying, Go to the house of the Rechabites and speak to them and bring them into the temple of YHWH, into one of the chambers, and give them wine to drink. Then I took Jozaniah the son of Jeremiah, the son of Habazinia, and his kinsmen and all his sons, and the whole house of the Rechabites, and I brought them into the temple of YHWH, into the chamber of the sons of Hanan, the son of Igdaliah, a man of Elohim that was by the chamber of the princes that was above the chamber of Maaseiah the son of Shallum, the keeper of the door, and I set before the sons of the house of the Rechabites pots full of wine and cups, and I said to them, Drink you this wine. But they replied, We will drink no wine, because Jonadab the son of Rechab our father commanded us saying, You will drink no wine, neither you or your sons for the ages, neither will you build house, nor sow seed, nor plant vineyards, nor have any, but all your days you will live in tents so that you may live many days in the land where you are foreigners. Now we have obeyed the voice of Jonadab the son of Rechab our father in all that he has charged us, to drink no wine all our days, we, our women, our sons or daughters, nor to build houses for us to live in, neither have we vineyards, nor field, nor seed, but we have lived in tents and have obeyed, and done according to all that Jonadab our father commanded us. But it came about, when Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came up into the land that we said, Come, and let us go to Jerusalem for fear of the army of the Chaldeans, and for fear of the army of the Syrians, so we stayed at Jerusalem. Then came the word of YHWH to Jeremiah saying, This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, Go and tell the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, Will you not receive instruction to hear my words? Declares YHWH. The words of Jonadab the son of Rechab, that he commanded his sons not to drink wine are performed, because to this day they drink none, but obey their father's commandment. Notwithstanding I have spoken to you, rising early and speaking, but you listen not to me. I have sent also to you all my slaves the prophets, rising up early and sending them saying, Return you now every man from his bad ways, and amend your practices, and go not after other Elohim to serve them, and you will live in the land that I have given to you and to your forefathers, but you have not inclined your ear, nor listened to me. Because the sons of Jonadab the son of Rechab have performed the commandment of their father that he commanded them, but this people have not listened to me, therefore this is what YHWH Elohim of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, Look, I will bring on Judah and on all the inhabitants of Jerusalem all the bad that I have pronounced against them. Because I have spoken to them, but they have not listened, and I have called to them, but they have not answered. Then Jeremiah said to the house of the Rechabites, This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, because you have obeyed the commandment of Jonadab your father, and observed all his precepts, and done according to all that he has commanded you. Therefore this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel says, Jonadab the son of Rechab will not fail a man to stand before me for the ages. And it came to pass in the 4th year of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah king of Judah, that this word came to Jeremiah from YHWH saying, Take yourself a roll of a scroll, and write on it all the words that I have spoken to you against Israel and against Judah, and against all the nations, from the day I spoke to you, from the days of Josiah, even to this day. It may be that the house of Judah will hear all the bad that I purpose to do to them, so that they may return everyone from their bad ways, that I may pardon their depravity and their sin. Then Jeremiah called Baruch the son of Neriah, and Baruch wrote from the mouth of Jeremiah all the words of YHWH that he had spoken to him, upon a roll of a scroll. Then Jeremiah commanded Baruch saying, I am shut up, I cannot go into the temple of YHWH, therefore go and read in the scroll that you have written from my mouth, the words of YHWH in the ears of the people in YHWH's temple on the day of fasting, and also you will read them in the ears of all Judah that come out of their cities. It may be they will present their supplication before YHWH, and will return everyone from his bad ways, because great is the anger and the rage that YHWH has pronounced against this people. Then Baruch the son of Neriah did according to all that Jeremiah the prophet commanded him, reading in the scroll the words of YHWH in YHWH's temple. And it came about in the 5th year of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah king of Judah, in the 9th month that they proclaimed a fast before YHWH to all the people in Jerusalem, and to all the people that came from the cities of Judah to Jerusalem. Then Baruch read in the scroll the words of Jeremiah in the temple of YHWH, in the chamber of Gemariah the son of Shaphan the scribe, in the higher court, at the entry of the new gate of YHWH's temple, in the ears of all the people. When Mishael the son of Gemariah, the son of Shaphan, had heard out of the scroll all the words of YHWH, then he went down into the king's house, into the scribe's chamber, and lo, all the chiefs sat there, even Elishama the scribe, and Delaiah the son of Shemaiah, and Elnathan the son of Achbor, and Gemariah the son of Shaphan, and Zedekiah the son of Hananiah, and all the princes. Then Mishael declared to them all the words that he had heard, when Baruch read the scroll in the ears of the people. Therefore all the chiefs sent Yehudi the son of Nethaniah, the son of Shelemiah, the son of Cushi, to Baruch saying, Take in your hand the roll where you have read in the ears of the people and come. So Baruch the son of Neriah took the roll in his hand and came to them. And they said to him, Sit down now and read it in our ears. So Baruch read it in their ears. Now it came about, when they had heard all the words, they were afraid both one and the other, and responded to Baruch, We will certainly tell the king of all these words. Then they asked Baruch saying, Tell us now, how did you write all these words at his mouth? Then Baruch answered them, He pronounced all these words to me with his mouth, and I wrote them with ink in the scroll. Then the chiefs replied to Baruch, Go hide yourself, you and Jeremiah, and let none know where you are. And they went in to the king into the court, but they laid up the roll in the chamber of Elishama the scribe, and told all the words in the ears of the king. So the king sent Yehudi to get the roll, and he took it out of Elishama the scribe's chamber. And Yehudi read it in the ears of the king, and in the ears of all the chiefs that stood beside the king. Now the king sat in the winter house in the 9th month, and there was a fire on the hearth burning before him. And it came about that when Yehudi had read 3 or 4 leaves, he cut it with the penknife and cast it into the fire that was on the hearth, until all the roll was consumed in the fire that was on the hearth. Yet they were not afraid, nor tore their garments, neither the king or any of his slaves that heard all these words. Nevertheless Elnathan and Delaiah and Gemariah had made intercession to the king that he would not burn the roll, but he would not hear them. But the king commanded Jeremiel the son of Hamelech, and Sariah the son of Azriel, and Shelemiah the son of Abdiel, to take Baruch the scribe and Jeremiah the prophet, but YHWH hid them. Then the word of YHWH came to Jeremiah, after the king had burnt the roll, and the words that Baruch wrote at the mouth of Jeremiah saying, Take yourself again another roll and write in it all the former words that were in the first roll that Jehoiakim the king of Judah has burnt. And you will say to Jehoiakim king of Judah, This is what YHWH declares, You have burnt this roll saying, Why have you written on this saying, The king of Babylon will certainly come and destroy this land, and will cause to cease from their man and animal. Therefore this is what YHWH says of Jehoiakim king of Judah, He will have none to sit on the throne of David, and his corpse will be cast out in the day to the heat, and in the night to the frost. And I will punish him and his descendants and his slaves for their depravity, and I will bring upon them and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and upon the men of Judah, all the bad that I have pronounced against them, but they did not listen. Then Jeremiah took another roll and gave it to Baruch the scribe, the son of Neriah, who wrote on it from the mouth of Jeremiah all the words of the scroll that Jehoiakim king of Judah had burnt in the fire. And there were added besides those words many similar words. And King Zedekiah the son of Josiah reigned in place of Coniah the son of Jehoiakim, whom Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon made king in the land of Judah. But neither he, nor his slaves, nor the people of the land did listen to the words of Yhwh that he spoke by the prophet Jeremiah. Then Zedekiah the king sent Jehukal the son of Shelemiah and Zephaniah the son of Maaseiah, the priest to the prophet Jeremiah saying, Pray now to Yhwh our Elohim for us. Now Jeremiah came in and went out among the people, because they had not put him into prison. Then Pharaoh's army was come out of Egypt, and when the Chaldeans that besieged Jerusalem heard reports of them, they departed from Jerusalem. Then came the word of Yhwh to the prophet Jeremiah saying, This is what Yhwh, the Elohim of Israel declares, You will say to the king of Judah, that sent you to me to inquire of me, Observe, Pharaoh's army that has come out to help you will return to Egypt into their own land. And the Chaldeans will return and fight against this city and capture it, and burn it with fire. Yhwh says, Deceive not yourselves saying, The Chaldeans will surely depart from us, because they will not depart. Because though you had beaten the whole army of the Chaldeans that fight against you, and there remained but wounded men among them, still they should rise up every man in his tent and burn this city with fire. And it came to pass, in the going up of the force of the Chaldeans from off Jerusalem, because of the army of Pharaoh, that Jeremiah went out of Jerusalem to go into the land of Benjamin, to separate himself there among the people. And when he was in the gate of Benjamin, a captain of the ward was there whose name was Urjiah, the son of Shelemiah, the son of Hananiah, and he took Jeremiah the prophet saying, You put your lot in with the Chaldeans. Then Jeremiah replied, That is false, I do not put my lot in with the Chaldeans. But he did not listen to him, so Urjiah arrested Jeremiah and brought him to the chiefs. Therefore the chiefs were angry with Jeremiah, and struck him and put him in prison in the house of Jonathan the scribe, because they had made that the prison. When Jeremiah had entered into the house of the dungeon and to his cell, then Jeremiah lived there many days. Then Zedekiah the king sent and took him out, and the king asked him secretly in his house inquiring, Is there any word from Yhwh? And Jeremiah replied, There is, because he said, You will be delivered into the hand of the king of Babylon. Moreover Jeremiah said to King Zedekiah, What have I offended against you or against your slaves, or against this people that you have put me in prison? Where are now your prophets that prophesied to you saying, The king of Babylon will not come against you, nor against this land? Therefore listen now I ask you, O my master the king, let my supplication I ask you, be accepted before you, that you cause me not to return to the house of Jonathan the scribe unless I die there. Then Zedekiah the king commanded that they should commit Jeremiah into the court of the prison, and that they should give him daily a piece of bread out of the baker's street, until all the bread in the city was spent. Then Jeremiah remained in the court of the prison. Then Shephatiah the son of Mattan, and Gedaliah the son of Pashur, and Jukal the son of Shelemiah, and Pashur the son of Malchiah, heard the words that Jeremiah had spoken to all the people saying, This is what Yhwh declares, He that remains in this city will die by the sword, famine, and by the plague, but he that goes out to the Chaldeans will live, because he will have his life for a booty, and will live. This is what Yhwh declares, This city will certainly be given into the hand of the king of Babylon's army that will capture it. Therefore the chief said to the king, We implore you, let this man be put to death. For this cause, that he weakens the hands of the men of war that remain in this city, and the hands of all the people in speaking such words to them, because this man seeks not the welfare of this people, but their hurt. Then Zedekiah the king replied, Look, he is in your custody, for the king is not he that can do anything against you. Then they took Jeremiah and cast him into the dungeon of Malchiah the son of Hamelech that was in the court of the prison, and they let down Jeremiah with ropes. And in the dungeon there was no water, but mud, so Jeremiah sank in the mud. Now when Ebedmelech the Ethiopian, one of the eunuchs that was in the king's house, heard that they had put Jeremiah in the dungeon, the king then sitting in the gate of Benjamin, Ebedmelech went out of the king's house and spoke to the king saying, My master the king, these men have done bad in all that they have done to Jeremiah the prophet, who they have cast into the dungeon, and he is likely to die for hunger in the place where he now is, because there is no more bread in the city. Then the king commanded Ebedmelech the Ethiopian saying, Take from here 30 men with you and take up Jeremiah the prophet out of the dungeon before he dies. So Ebedmelech took the men with him, and went into the house of the king under the treasury, and took from their old shreds and old rotten rags, and let them down by ropes into the dungeon to Jeremiah. And Ebedmelech the Ethiopian said to Jeremiah, Put now these old shreds and rotten rags under your armpits under the ropes. And Jeremiah did so. So they drew up Jeremiah with ropes, and took him up out of the dungeon, and Jeremiah remained in the court of the prison. Then Zedekiah the king sent, and brought Jeremiah the prophet to him into the third entry that is in the temple of Yhwh, and the king said to Jeremiah, I will ask you a thing, hide nothing from me. Then Jeremiah said to Zedekiah, If I declare it to you, will you not surely put me to death? And if I give you counsel, will you not listen to me? So Zedekiah the king adjured secretly to Jeremiah saying, As Yhwh lives, that made us this life, I will not put you to death, neither will I give you into the hand of these men that seek your life. Then Jeremiah said to Zedekiah, This is what Yhwh, the Elohim of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, If you will assuredly go out to the king of Babylon's princes, then you will live, and this city will not be burnt with fire, and you will live, and your house, but if you will not go out to the king of Babylon's princes, then will this city be given into the hand of the Chaldeans, and they will burn it with fire and you will not escape out of their hands. Then Zedekiah the king replied to Jeremiah, I am afraid of the Jews that are fallen to the Chaldeans, unless they deliver me into their hand, and they abuse me. But Jeremiah said, They will not deliver you. Obey, I implore you, the voice of Yhwh that I speak to you, so it will be well with you, and you will live. But if you refuse to go out, this is the word that Yhwh has shown me, that lo, all the women who have been left in the house of the king of Judah are brought out to the princes of the king of Babylon, and lo, they are saying, Persuaded you, and prevailed against you have your allies, sunk into mud have your feet, they have been turned backward. So they will bring out all your women and your children to the Chaldeans, and you will not escape out of their hand, but will be taken by the hand of the king of Babylon, and you will cause this city to be burnt with fire. Then Zedekiah replied to Jeremiah, Let no man know of these words, and you will not die. But if the chiefs hear that I have talked with you, and they come to you, and say to you, Declare to us now what you have said to the king, hide it not from us, and we will not put you to death, also what the king said to you, then you will say to them, I presented my supplication before the king, that he would not cause me to return to Jonathan's house, to die there. And all the heads come in unto Jeremiah, and ask him, and he declares to them according to all these words that the king commanded, and they keep silent from him, for the matter was not heard. So Jeremiah stayed in the court of the prison until the day that Jerusalem was seized, and he was there when Jerusalem was captured. In the 9th year of Zedekiah king of Judah, in the 10th month, came Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon and all his army against Jerusalem and they besieged it. And in the 11th year of Zedekiah, in the 4th month, the 9th day of the month, the city was broken into. And all the princes of the king of Babylon came in, and sat in the middle gate, even Nergal-Sharezer, Samgar-Nebo, Sarsekim, Rabsaris, Nergal-Sharezer, Rabmag, with all the rest of the chiefs of the king of Babylon. And it came about that when Zedekiah the king of Judah saw them, and all the men of war, then they fled and went out of the city by night, by way of the king's garden, by the gate between the two walls, and he went out the way of the desert plain. But the Chaldeans' army pursued after them, and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho, and when they had taken him, they brought him up to Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon to Riblah in the land of Hamath, where he gave judgment on him. Then the king of Babylon killed the sons of Zedekiah in Riblah before his eyes, also the king of Babylon killed all the nobles of Judah. Furthermore he put out Zedekiah's eyes, and bound him with chains, to carry him to Babylon. And the Chaldeans burnt the king's house, and the houses of the people with fire, and broke down the walls of Jerusalem. Then Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard carried away captive into Babylon the remnant of the people that remained in the city and those that fell away, that fell to him, with the rest of the people that remained. But Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard left from the poor of the people that had nothing, in the land of Judah, and gave them vineyards and fields at that same time. Now Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon gave charge concerning Jeremiah to Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard saying, Take him and look well to him, and do him no harm, but do to him even as he will say to you. So Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard sent, and Nebuchadnezzar, Rabsaris, and Nergal-Sharezer, Rabmag, and all the king of Babylon's princes, even, they sent and took Jeremiah out of the court of the prison, and committed him to Gedaliah the son of Ahikam the son of Shaphan, that he should carry him home, so he lived among the people. Now the word of Yhwh came to Jeremiah, while he was shut up in the court of the prison saying, Go and speak to Ebed-Melech the Ethiopian saying, This is what Yhwh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, Look, I will bring my words upon this city for bad, and not for good, and they will be accomplished in that day before you. But I will deliver you in that day says Yhwh, and you will not be given into the hand of the men of whom you are afraid of. Because I will certainly deliver you, and you will not fall by the sword, but your own life will be for booty to you, because you have put your trust in me declares Yhwh. The word that came to Jeremiah from Yhwh, After that Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard had let him go from Ramah, when he had taken him being bound in chains among all that were carried away captive of Jerusalem and Judah, that were carried away captive to Babylon. Then the captain of the guard took Jeremiah and said to him, YHWH your Elohim has pronounced this bad on this standing place. Now YHWH has attacked and done according as he has said, because you have sinned against YHWH and have not obeyed his voice, therefore these things have come upon you. And now, see, I release you this day from the chains that were on your hand. If it seems good to you to come with me to Babylon, come, and I will look well to you, but if it seems ill to you to come with me to Babylon, forbear, see, all the land is before you. Whatever seems good and convenient for you to go, then go there. However, before Jeremiah answered, Nebuzaradan added, Go back to Gedaliah son of Ahikam, son of Shaphan, whom the king of Babylon has appointed over the cities of Judah, and live with him among the people, or wherever it is right in your eyes to go, then go. And the chief of the executioners gave to him food for the journey, and a gift, and sent him away. Then Jeremiah went to Gedaliah the son of Ahikam to Mizpah, and lived with him among the people that were left in the land. Now when all the captains of the forces that were in the fields, even they and their men, heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah the son of Ahikam governor in the land, and had committed to him men, women, children, and of the poor of the land, of them that were not carried away captive to Babylon, then they came to Gedaliah to Mizpah, even Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, and Johanan and Jonathan the sons of Kareah, and Sariah the son of Tanhumeth, and the sons of Ephi the Netophathite, and Jezaniah the son of Amachathite, they and their men. And Gedaliah the son of Ahikam the son of Shaphan adjured to them and to their men saying, Fear not to serve the Chaldeans, live in the land, and serve the king of Babylon, and it will be well with you. As for me, see, I will live at Mizpah to serve the Chaldeans that will come to us, but you, gather yourselves wine, summer fruits, oil, and put them in your vessels, and reside in your cities that you have taken. Likewise when all the Jews that were in Moab, and among the Ammonites, and in Edom, and that were in all the countries, heard that the king of Babylon had left a remnant of Judah, and that he had set over them Gedaliah the son of Ahikam the son of Shaphan, even all the Jews returned out of all places where they were driven, and came to the land of Judah, to Gedaliah, unto Mizpah, and gathered wine and summer fruits in large quantity. Moreover Johanan the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces that were in the fields, came to Gedaliah to Mizpah, and said to him, Do you certainly know that Baalis the king of the Ammonites has sent Ishmael the son of Nethaniah to kill you? But Gedaliah the son of Ahikam did not believe him. Then Johanan the son of Kareah spoke to Gedaliah in Mizpah secretly saying, Let me go I ask you, and I will kill Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, and no man will know it. Why should he kill you, that all the Jews that are gathered to you should be scattered, and the remnant in Judah perish? But Gedaliah the son of Ahikam replied to Johanan the son of Kareah, You will not do this thing, because you speak falsely of Ishmael. Now it came about in the 7th month, that Ishmael the son of Nethaniah the son of Elishama, of the royal seed, and the princes of the king, even 10 men with him, came to Gedaliah the son of Ahikam to Mizpah, and there they did eat bread together in Mizpah. Then arose Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, and the 10 men that were with him, and struck Gedaliah the son of Ahikam the son of Shaphan with the sword, and killed him, who the king of Babylon had made governor over the land. Ishmael also killed all the Jews that were with him, even with Gedaliah, at Mizpah, and the Chaldeans that were found there, and the men of war. And it came to pass the 2nd day after he had killed Gedaliah, and no man knew it, that there came certain from Shechem, from Shiloh, and from Samaria, even 80 men, having their beards shaved, and their clothes torn, and having cut themselves, with offerings and incense in their hand, to bring them to the temple of YHWH. And Ishmael the son of Nethaniah went out from Mizpah to meet them, weeping all along as he went, and it came about, as he met them he said to them, Come to Gedaliah the son of Ahikam. And it was so, when they came into the middle of the city, that Ishmael the son of Nethaniah killed them, and cast them into the center of the pit, he, and the men that were with him. But 10 men were found among them that said to Ishmael, Kill us not, because we have treasures in the field, of wheat, barley, oil, and honey. So he desisted and killed them not among their kinsmen. Now the pit where Ishmael had cast all the corpses of the men who he had killed because of Gedaliah, was it which Asa the king had made for fear of Baasha king of Israel, and Ishmael the son of Nethaniah filled it with them that were killed. Then Ishmael carried away captive all the rest of the people that were in Mizpah, even the king's daughters, and all the people that remained in Mizpah, whom Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard had committed to Gedaliah the son of Ahikam. And Ishmael the son of Nethaniah carried them away captive, and departed to go over to the Ammonites. But when Johanan the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces that were with him, heard of all the bad that Ishmael the son of Nethaniah had done, then they took all the men and went to fight with Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, and found him by the abundant waters that are in Gibeon. Now it came about that when all the people that were with Ishmael saw Johanan the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces that were with him, then they were glad. So all the people that Ishmael had carried away captive from Mizpah turned around and returned, and went to Johanan the son of Kareah. But Ishmael the son of Nethaniah escaped from Johanan with 8 men, and went to the Ammonites. Then Johanan took the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces that were with him, all the remnant of the people who he had recovered from Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, from Mizpah, after he had killed Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, even mighty men of war and the women, children, and eunuchs, who he had brought back from Gibeon, and they left, and lived in the habitation of Chimham that is by Bethlehem, to go to enter into Egypt, because of the Chaldeans, for they were afraid of them because Ishmael the son of Nethaniah had killed Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, who the king of Babylon appointed governor in the land. Then all the captains of the forces, and Johanan the son of Kareah, and Jezaniah the son of Hoshea, and all the people from the unimportant even to the distinguished came near, and said to Jeremiah the prophet, Let, we implore you, our supplication be accepted before you, and pray for us to Yhwh Elohim, even for all this remnant, for we that are left are but a few of many, as your eyes do see, that Yhwh Elohim may show us the way where we may walk, and the thing that we may do. Then Jeremiah the prophet replied to them, I have heard you. Now I will pray to Yhwh Elohim according to your words, and it will come about that whatever thing Yhwh will answer you, I will declare it to you, I will keep nothing back from you. Then they said to Jeremiah, May Yhwh be a true and faithful witness against us, if we do not act in accordance with all that Yhwh Elohim sends you to tell us. Whether it is good, or whether it is bad, we will obey the voice of Yhwh Elohim, to whom we send you, that it may be well with us, when we obey the voice of Yhwh Elohim. And it came to pass after 10 days, that the word of Yhwh came to Jeremiah. Then he called Johanan the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces that were with him, and all the people from the unimportant even to the distinguished, and said to them, This is what Yhwh Elohim of Israel declares, to whom you sent me to present your supplication before him, if you will still remain in this land, then I will establish you and not pull you down, and I will plant you and not pluck you up, because I regret the bad that I have done to you. Be not afraid of the king of Babylon, of whom you are afraid, be not afraid of him, says Yhwh, because I am with you to save you, and to deliver you from his hand. And I will show mercies to you, that he may have mercy on you, and cause you to return to your own land. But if you say, We will not remain in this land, neither obey the voice of Yhwh Elohim saying, No, but we will go into the land of Egypt, where we will see no war, nor hear the sound of the trumpet, nor have hunger of bread, and there we will live, and now therefore hear the word of Yhwh, you remnant of Judah, this is what Yhwh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, if you wholly set your faces to enter into Egypt, and go to live there, then it will come to pass that the sword that you feared will overtake you in the land of Egypt, and the famine of which you were afraid, will follow closely after you in Egypt, and there you will die. So it will be with all the men that set their faces to go into Egypt to live there, they will die by the sword, by the famine, and by the plague, and none of them will remain or escape from the bad that I will bring on them. Because this is what Yhwh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, as my anger and my fury has been poured out on the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so will my fury be poured out on you, when you will enter into Egypt, and you will be a curse, and an appalment, and a vilification, and a scorn, and you will see this standing place no more. Yhwh has said concerning you, O you remnant of Judah, go not into Egypt, know certainly that I have admonished you this day. Because you went astray in your hearts, when you sent me to Yhwh Elohim saying, Pray for us to Yhwh Elohim, and according to all that Yhwh Elohim will say, so declare to us and we will do it. And now I have this day declared it to you, but you have not obeyed the voice of Yhwh Elohim, with regard to all the things for which he has sent me to you. Now therefore know certainly that you will die by the sword, by the famine, and by the plague, in the place where you desire to go and to live. And it came to pass that when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking to all the people all the words of Yhwh Elohim, for which Yhwh their Elohim had sent him to them, even all these words, then spoke Azariah the son of Hoshea, and Johanan the son of Kareah, and all the proud men saying to Jeremiah, You speak falsely, Yhwh Elohim has not sent you to say, Do not go into Egypt to live there. But Baruch the son of Neriah set you up against us, to deliver us into the hand of the Chaldeans so that they might put us to death, and carry us away captives into Babylon. So Johanan the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces and all the people, did not obey the voice of YHWH, to remain in the land of Judah. But Johanan the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces, took all the remnant of Judah, that were returned from all nations, where they had been driven, to live in the land of Judah, even men, women, and children, and the king's daughters, and every person that Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard had left with Gedaliah the son of Ahikam the son of Shaphan, and Jeremiah the prophet, and Baruch the son of Neriah. So they came into the land of Egypt, because they obeyed not the voice of YHWH, then they came even to Tahpanhes. And the word of YHWH came to Jeremiah and Tahpanhes saying, Take great stones in your hand, and hide them in the clay in the brick kiln, which is at the entry of Pharaoh's house in Tahpanhes, in the sight of the men of Judah, and say to them, This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, Look, I will send and take Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon, my slave, and will set his throne on these stones that I have hidden, and he will spread his royal pavilion over them. And when he comes, he will strike the land of Egypt, and deliver such as are for death to death, and such as are for captivity to captivity, and such as are for the sword to the sword. And I will kindle a fire in the houses of the Elohim of Egypt, and he will burn them, and carry them away captives. And he will array himself with the land of Egypt, as a shepherd puts on his garment, and he will go out from there in peace. He will also break the images of Bethshemesh, that is in the land of Egypt, and the houses of the Elohim of the Egyptians will he burn with fire. The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the Jews that live in the land of Egypt, that reside at Migdol, Tahpanhes, and at Noph, and in the country of Pathros, saying, This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, You have seen all the badness that I have brought on Jerusalem, and on all the cities of Judah, and lo, this day they are a place laid waste, and no man lives there. Because of their badness that they have committed to provoke me to anger, in that they went to burn incense, and to serve other Elohim, who they knew not, neither they, you, nor your ancestors. Nevertheless I sent to you all my slaves the prophets, rising early and sending them saying, Oh, do not these disgusting things which I hate. But they did not listen or incline their ear to turn from their badness, to burn no incense to other Elohim. Therefore my fury and my anger was poured out, and was kindled in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, and they are wasted and desolate, as it is this day. Therefore now this is what YHWH Elohim of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, Why do you commit this great bad against yourselves, to cut off from you man and woman, child and nursing woman, out of Judah, to leave you none to remain, in that you provoke me to wrath with the works of your hands, burning incense to other Elohim in the land of Egypt where you have gone to live? And that you might cut yourselves off and might be a curse, and a scorn among all the nations of the earth? Have you forgotten the badness of your ancestors, and the badness of the kings of Judah, and the bad of their wives, and your own badness, and the bad of your women that they have committed in the land of Judah, and in the streets of Jerusalem? They are not humbled even to this day, neither have they feared or walked in my law, nor in my statutes, that I set before you and before your forefathers. Therefore this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, Look, I will set my face against you for bad, and to cut off all Judah. And I will take the remnant of Judah, that have set their faces to go into the land of Egypt to live there, and they will all be consumed and fall in the land of Egypt. They will even be consumed by the sword and by the famine, they will die, from the least even to the greatest, by the sword and by the famine, and they will be a curse, and an appalment, and a vilification, and a scorn. Because I will punish them that live in the land of Egypt, as I have punished Jerusalem, by the sword, by famine, and by plague, so that none of the remnant of Judah that are gone into the land of Egypt to live there will escape or remain, that they should return into the land of Judah, to which they have a desire to return to live there. Because none will return but such as will escape. Then all the men that knew that their women had burned incense to other Elohim, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that lived in the land of Egypt, in Pathros, answered Jeremiah saying, As for the word that you have spoken to us in the name of YHWH, we will not listen to you. But we will certainly do whatever thing goes out of our own mouth, to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings to her, as we have done, we, and our fathers, our kings, and our princes, in the cities of Judah, and in the streets of Jerusalem, because then we had plenty of food, and were well, and saw no bad. But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings to her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by the famine. And when we are making perfume to the Queen of the Heaven, and pouring out to her libations, without our husbands have we made for her cakes to idolize her, and to pour out to her libations. Then Jeremiah replied to all the people, to the men and to the women, and to all the people that had given him that answer saying, The incense that you burned in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, you and your forefathers, your kings, and your princes, and the people of the land, Did not YHWH remember them, and came it not into his mind? So that YHWH could no longer bear, because of the badness of your practices, and because of the abominations that you have committed. Therefore is your land a place laid waste, and an appalment, and a curse, without an inhabitant, as it is this day. Because you have burned incense, and because you have sinned against YHWH, and have not obeyed the voice of YHWH, nor walked in his law, statutes or in his testimonies, therefore this bad has happened to you, as it is this day. Moreover Jeremiah said to all the people and to all the women, Hear the word of YHWH, all Judah that are in the land of Egypt. This is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares saying, You and your women have both spoken with your mouths, and fulfilled with your hand saying, We will certainly perform our vows that we have vowed, to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings to her. You will certainly accomplish your vows, and perform them. Therefore hear the word of YHWH, all Judah that lives in the land of Egypt. Look, I have adjured by my great name, says YHWH, that my name will no more be named in the mouth of anyone of Judah in all the land of Egypt, saying, YHWH Elohim lives. Note, I will watch over them for bad, and not for good, and all the men of Judah that are in the land of Egypt will be consumed by the sword and by the famine, until there is an end of them. Still a small number that escape the sword will return out of the land of Egypt into the land of Judah, and all the remnant of Judah, that are gone into the land of Egypt to live there, will know whose words will stand, mine, or theirs. And this will be a sign to you, declares YHWH, that I will punish you in this place so that you may know that my words will certainly stand against you for bad. This is what YHWH declares, Look, I will give Pharaoh Hophra king of Egypt into the hand of his enemies, and into the hand of those that seek his life, as I gave Zedekiah king of Judah into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, his enemy, and that sought his life. The word that Jeremiah the prophet spoke to Baruch the son of Neriah, when he had written these words in a scroll at the mouth of Jeremiah, in the 4th year of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah king of Judah, saying, This is what YHWH, the Elohim of Israel declares to you, O Baruch, you did say, Woe is me now. Because YHWH has added grief to my sorrow, I fainted in my sighing, and I find no rest. This is what you will say to him, YHWH says, See, what I have built I will break down, and what I have planted I will pluck up, even this whole land. And seek you great things for yourself? Seek them not, for observe, I will bring bad on all flesh, says YHWH, but your life I will give to you for a booty in all places where you go. The word of YHWH that came to Jeremiah the prophet against the Gentiles, against Egypt, against the army of Pharaoh Necho king of Egypt that was by the river Euphrates in Carchemish, which Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon attacked in the 4th year of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah king of Judah. Order you the buckler and shield and draw near to battle. Harness the horses, and get up, you horsemen, and stand up with your helmets, furbish the spears, and put on the armor. Why have I seen them dismayed? They are turned backward, and their mighty ones are beaten down, and to a refuge they have fled and not turned the face. Fear is all around, an affirmation of YHWH. Let not the swift flee away or the mighty man escape, they will stumble, and fall toward the north by the river Euphrates. Who is this that comes up as a flood, whose waters are moved as the rivers? Egypt rises up like a flood, and his waters are moved like the rivers, and he says, I will go up and will cover the earth, I will destroy the city and its inhabitants. Come up, you horses, and rage you chariots, and let the mighty men come out, the Ethiopians and the Libyans that handle the shield, and the Lydians, that handle and bend the bow. Because this is the day of YHWH Elohim of hosts, a day of vengeance, that he may avenge himself of his adversaries. And the sword will devour, and it will be satiated and made drunk with their blood, because YHWH Elohim of hosts has a sacrifice in the north country by the river Euphrates. Go up into Gilead and take balm, O virgin, the daughter of Egypt, in vain will you use many medicines, because you will not be cured. The nations have heard of your shame, and your cry has filled the land, for the mighty man has stumbled against the mighty, and they are fallen both together. The word that YHWH spoke to Jeremiah the prophet, how Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon should come and attack the land of Egypt. Declare you in Egypt and publish in Migdol, and publish in Noph and in Tapanes, say, Stand fast and prepare yourself, because the sword will devour all around you. Why are your valiant men swept away? They stood not, because YHWH did drive them. He made many to fall, yes, one fell on another, and they said, Get up and let us go again to our own people and to the land of our nativity, from the oppressing sword. They did cry there, Pharaoh king of Egypt is but a noise, he is past the time appointed. As I live, says the king, whose name is YHWH of hosts, certainly as Tabor is among the mountains and as Carmel by the sea, so will he come. O you daughter living in Egypt, furnish yourself to go into captivity, for Noph will be waste and desolate without an inhabitant. Egypt is like a very fair heifer, but destruction comes, it comes out of the north. Also her hired men are among her like bull calf, because they also are turned back, and are fled away together, they did not stand, because the day of their calamity has come upon them and the time of their visitation. The voice will go like a fleeing serpent, because they will march with an army, and come against her with axes, as cutters of wood. They will cut down her forest, declares YHWH, though it cannot be searched, because they are more than the grasshoppers, and are innumerable. The daughter of Egypt will be confounded, she will be delivered into the hand of the people of the north. YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, look, I will punish the multitude of No, and Pharaoh, and Egypt, with their Elohim, and their kings, even Pharaoh, and all those that trust in him, and I will deliver them into the hand of those that seek their lives, and into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, and into the hand of his slaves, and afterward it will be inhabited, as in the old days, says YHWH. But fear you not, O my slave Jacob, and be not dismayed, O Israel, for behold, I will save you from afar off, and your descendants from the land of their captivity, and Jacob will return, and be in rest and at ease, and none will make him afraid. Fear not, O Jacob my slave, says YHWH, because I am with you, because I will make a full end of all the nations where I have driven you. But I will not make a full end of you, but correct you in measure, still I will not leave you wholly unpunished. The word of YHWH that came to Jeremiah the prophet against the Philistines, before that Pharaoh attacked Gaza. This is what YHWH declares, watch, waters rise up out of the north, and will be an overflowing flood and will overflow the land, and all that is in it, the city and those that reside there. Then the men will cry and all the inhabitants of the land will wail. At the noise of the stamping of the hoofs of his strong horses, at the rushing of his chariots, and at the rumbling of his wheels, the fathers will not look back to their children for feebleness of hands, because of the day that comes to devastate all the Philistines, and to cut off from Tyrus and Zidon every helper that survives, because YHWH will devastate the Philistines, the remnant of the country of Caphtor. Baldness has come on Gaza, Ashkelon is cut off with the remnant of their valley, how long will you cut yourself? O sword of YHWH, how long will it be before you are quiet? Put up yourself into your sheath, rest and be still. How can it be quiet, seeing YHWH has given it a charge against Ashkelon, and against the seashore? There has he appointed it. Against Moab YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, woe to Nebo! Because it is devastated, Kiriathaim is withered and captured, Misgab is withered and broken. There will be no more praise of Moab, in Heshbon they have devised bad against it, come, and let us cut it off from being a nation. Also you will be cut down, O dunghill, the sword will pursue you. A voice of crying will be from Horonaim, violence and great destruction. Moab is destroyed, her little ones have caused a cry to be heard. For the ascent of Luhith with weeping, go up does the weeping, for in the descent of Horonaim adversaries a cry of desolation you have heard. Flee, save your lives, and be like the stripped tree in the forest. Surely because you have trusted in your works and in your treasures, you will also be captured, and Chemosh will go into captivity with his priests and his princes together. And the despoiler will come upon every city, and no city will escape, the valley also will perish, and the plain will be destroyed, as YHWH has spoken. Give wings to Moab, that it may flee and get away, because the cities there will be wasted, without any to live therein. Cursed is he that does the work of YHWH with laxness, and cursed is he that keeps back his sword from blood. Moab has been at ease from his youth, and he has settled on his lees, and has not been emptied from vessel to vessel, neither has he gone into captivity, therefore his taste remained in him, and his scent is not changed. Therefore watch, the days come declares YHWH, that I will send to him wanderers, that will cause him to wander, and will empty his vessels, and break their bottles. And Moab will be ashamed of Chemosh, as the house of Israel was ashamed of Bethel their confidence. How do you say, we are mighty and strong men for the war? Moab is devastated, and gone up out of her cities, and his chosen young men are gone down to the slaughter, declares the king, whose name is YHWH of hosts. The calamity of Moab is close at hand, and his affliction comes fast. All you that are around him, bemoan him, and all you that know his name, say, how is the strong staff broken, and the beautiful rod? You daughter that does inhabit Dibon, come down from your glory and sit in thirst, for the despoiler of Moab will come upon you and he will destroy your strongholds. O inhabitant of Aroer, stand by the road and spy, ask him that flees and her that escapes, and ask, what is done? Moab is confounded because it is broken down, wail and cry, tell it in Arnon, that Moab is devastated. And judgment has come upon the plain country, on Holon, Jahaza, Mephoth, Dibon, Nebo, Beth Diblathaim, Kiriathaim, Beth Gamel, Beth Meon, Kerioth, Basra, and upon all the cities of the land of Moab, far or near. The horn of Moab is cut off, and his arm is broken, declares YHWH. You make him drunken, because he magnified himself against YHWH. Moab also will wallow in his vomit, and he also will be in derision. Because was not Israel a derision to you? Was he found among thieves? For since you spoke of him, you skipped for joy. O you that live in Moab, leave the cities and reside in the rock, and be like the dove that makes her nest in the sides of the mouth of the cave. We have heard the pride of Moab, he is exceedingly proud, his loftiness, and his swelling pride, and his haughty heart. I know his anger, says YHWH, but it will not be so, his lies will not so affect it. Therefore I will wail for Moab, and I will cry out for all Moab, my heart will mourn for the men of Kir-Heres. O vine of Sibmah, I will weep for you with the weeping of Yazer, your plants are gone over the sea, they reach even to the sea of Yazer, the despoiler has fallen upon your summer fruits and your vintage. And joy and gladness is taken from the plentiful field, and from the land of Moab, and I have caused wine to fail from the winepresses, none will tread with shouting, their shouting will be no shouting. From the cry of Heshbon even to Elealeh, and even to Jahaz have they uttered their voice, from Zoar even to Horonaim, as a heifer of 3 years old, because the waters also of Nimrim will be desolate. Moreover I will cause to cease in Moab, says YHWH, him that offers in the worship places, and him that burns incense to his Elohim. Therefore my heart will sound for Moab like pipes, and my heart will sound like pipes for the men of Kir-Heres, because the riches that he has acquired are vanished. Because every head will become bald, and every beard clipped, upon all the hands will be cuttings, and on the hips sackcloth. There will be lamentation generally upon all the housetops of Moab, and in its streets, because I have broken Moab like a vessel where there is no pleasure, declares YHWH. They will howl, saying, how is it broken down? How has Moab turned the back with shame? So will Moab be a derision and a dismaying to all those around him. Because this is what YHWH declares, look, he will fly as an eagle and will spread his wings over Moab. Kerioth is captured, and the strongholds are seized, and the mighty men's hearts in Moab at that day will be as the heart of a woman in her labor pains. And Moab will be destroyed from being a people, because he has magnified himself against YHWH. Fear and the pit, and the snare, will be upon you, O inhabitant of Moab, declares YHWH. He that flees from the terror will fall into the pit, and he that gets up out of the pit will be taken in the snare, because I will bring upon it, even on Moab, the year of their punishment, declares YHWH. They that fled stood under the shadow of Heshbon because of the force, but a fire will come out of Heshbon, and a flame from the midst of Sihon, and will devour the corner of Moab, and the crown of the head of the children of Noise. Woe be to you, O Moab! The people of Chemosh perish, because your sons are taken captives and your daughters captive too. Still I will return the captivity of Moab in the last days, declares YHWH. Here has ended the judgment of Moab. Concerning the Ammonites, this is what YHWH declares, has Israel no sons? Has he no heir? Why then does their king inherit Gad, and his people live in his cities? Therefore watch, the days come, declares YHWH, that I will cause an alarm of war to be heard in Rabbah of the Ammonites, and it will be a desolate heap of ruins, and her daughters will be burnt with fire. Then will Israel be heir to them that were his heirs, says YHWH. Wail, O Heshbon, because I is devastated, cry, you daughters of Rabbah, gird you with sackcloth, mourn and run to and fro by the hedges, because their king will go into captivity, and his priests and his princes together. Why glory you in the valleys, your flowing valley, O backsliding daughter? That trusted in her treasures, saying, who will come to me? Lo, I am bringing in upon you a terror, an affirmation of Adonai YHWH of hosts, from all around you, and you have been driven out each before it, and there is no gatherer of the wandering. And afterward I will return the captivity of the children of Ammon, declares YHWH. Concerning Edom, this is what YHWH of hosts declares, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee you, turn back, and dig in, O inhabitants of Dedan, because I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. If grape gatherers come to you, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? If thieves by night, they will destroy only until they have enough. But I have made Esau barren, I have uncovered his secret places, and he will not be able to hide himself, his descendants are devastated, and his kinsmen and his neighbors, and he is orphaned. Leave your fatherless children, I will preserve them alive, and let your widows trust in me. Because this is what YHWH declares, observe, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken, and are you he that will altogether go unpunished? You will not go unpunished, but you will certainly drink of it. Because I have adjured by myself declares YHWH, that Bozrah will become an appalment, a scorn, drought-ridden and a curse, and all its cities will be an age-lasting place laid waste. I have heard a rumor from YHWH, and an ambassador is sent to the heathen saying, gather you together and come against her, and rise up to the battle. Because lo, I will make you small among the heathen and despised among humanity. Your horror has deceived you and the pride of your heart, O you that live in the clefts of the rock, that hold the height of the hill, though you should make your nest as high as the eagle, I will bring you down from there declares YHWH. Also Edom will be a waste, everyone that goes by it will be appalled, and will hiss at all its plagues. As in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities declares YHWH, no one will remain there, neither will a son of man reside in it. Watch, he will come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan against the habitation of the strong, but I will suddenly make him run away from her, and who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? Because who is like me? And who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Therefore hear the counsel of YHWH that he has taken against Edom, and his purposes, that he has purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Certainly the least of the flock will draw them out, certainly he will make their habitations desolate with them. The earth is moved at the noise of their fall, at the cry its noise was heard in the Red Sea. Watch, he will come up and fly as the eagle, and spread his wings over Bozrah, and on that day will the heart of the mighty men of Edom be as the heart of a woman in her labor pains. Concerning Damascus. Hamath is put to shame, and Arpad, because they have heard bad reports, they are faint-hearted, there is sorrow on the sea, it cannot be pacified. Damascus has waxed feeble and turns herself to flee, and terror has seized on her, anguish and sorrows have taken her as a woman in labor. How is the city of praise not left, the city of my joy? Therefore her young men will fall in her streets, and all the men of war will be cut off in that day declares YHWH of hosts. And I will kindle a fire in the wall of Damascus and it will consume the palaces of Benhadad. Concerning Kedar, and concerning the kingdoms of Hazor that Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon will attack, this is what YHWH declares, arise you, go up to Kedar and despoil the men of the east. Their tents and their flocks will they remove, they will take to themselves their curtains, and all their vessels and their camels, and they will cry to them, terror is on every side. Flee, get you far away, dig in, O you inhabitants of Hazor says YHWH, because Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon has taken counsel against you, and has conceived a purpose against you. Arise, get yourself up to the wealthy nation, that lives without care declares YHWH, which have neither gates nor bars that live alone. And their camels will be a booty, and the multitude of their cattle a spoil, and I will scatter into all wines those that are in the extreme corners, and I will bring their calamity from all sides declares YHWH. And Hazor will be a dwelling for dragons, and a devastation for the ages, there will no one remain there or any son of man reside in it. The word of YHWH that came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah king of Judah saying, this is what YHWH of hosts declares, look, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. And upon Elam I will bring the four winds from the four quarters of the skies, and will scatter them toward all those winds, and there will be no nation where the outcasts of Elam will not come. Because I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies, and before those that seek their life, and I will bring bad upon them, even my fierce anger declares YHWH, and I will send the sword after them until I have consumed them. And I will set my throne in Elam, and will destroy from there the king and the princes declares YHWH. But it will come to pass in the last days that I will return the captivity of Elam declares YHWH, the word that YHWH spoke against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare you among the nations and publish, and set up a standard, publish, and conceal not, say, Babylon is captured, Bel is withered, Merodach is broken in pieces, her idols are withered away, her images are shattered in pieces. Because out of the north there comes up a nation against her that will make her land desolate, and none will reside there, they will remove, they will depart, both man and animal. In those days and in that time declares YHWH, the children of Israel will come, they and the children of Judah together, going and weeping, they will go and seek YHWH Elohim. They will inquire, through Urim-Thummim, the way to Zion with their faces toward their saying, come and let us join ourselves to YHWH in an age-lasting covenant that will not be forgotten. My people have been lost sheep, their shepherds, ministers, rabbis, have caused them to go astray, they have turned them away on the mountains, they have gone from mountain to hill, they have forgotten their resting place. All that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, We offend not, because they have sinned against YHWH, the habitation of justice, even YHWH, the hope of their ancestors. Remove out of the midst of Babylon, and go out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the male goats before the flocks. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north lands, and they will set themselves in formation against her. And from there she will be captured, their arrows will be as of a mighty technical man, none will return in vain. And Chaldea will be a plunder, all that booty in her will be satisfied, declares YHWH. Because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O you destroyers of my heritage, because you are grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls, your mother will be very ashamed, she that engendered you will be ashamed. Watch, in the last days of the nations they will become an uninhabited land, a dry and desert plain. Because of the anger of YHWH it will not be inhabited, but it will be a devastation. Everyone that goes by Babylon will be appalled and hiss at all her scourging. Put yourselves in formation against Babylon all around, all you that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, because she has sinned against YHWH. Shout against her all around, she has given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down, because it is the vengeance of YHWH, take vengeance upon her, as she has done, do to her. Cut off the sower from Babylon, and him that handles the sickle in the time of harvest, because terror of the oppressing sword they will turn everyone to his people, and they will flee everyone to his own land. Israel is a scattered sheep, the lions have driven him away, first the king of Assyria has devoured him, and last this Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon has shut his eyes. Therefore this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, Watch, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land as I have punished the king of Assyria. And I will return Israel back to his habitation, and he will feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his life will be satisfied on Mount Ephraim and Gilead. In those days, and in that time declares YHWH, the depravity of Israel will be required, and there will be none, and the sins of Judah, and they will not be found, because I will pardon them who survive. Go up against the land of Merathaim, even against it, and against the inhabitants of Pakad, waste and devote them to destruction, says YHWH, and do according to all that I have commanded you. A sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut, shaved off and broken? How is Babylon become a horrified waste among the nations? I have laid a snare for you and you are also seized, O Babylon, and you are not aware, you are found and caught, because you have stirred up YHWH. YHWH has opened his armory, and has brought out the weapons of his indignation, because this is the work of YHWH Elohim of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. Come against her in the end times, open her storehouses, cast her up as a heap of ruins, and devote her to destruction, let nothing of her be left. Slay all her young bulls, let them go down to the slaughter, woe to them. Because their day has come, the time of their punishment. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of YHWH Elohim, the vengeance of his temple. Call together the archers against Babylon, all you that bend the bow, camp against it all around, let none escape, recompense her according to her work, according to all that she has done, do to her, because she has been proud against YHWH, against the Holy One of Israel. Therefore will her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war will be cut off in that day, declares YHWH. Behold, I am against you, O you most proud, declares YHWH Elohim of hosts, because your day has come, the time that I will punish you. And the most proud will stumble and fall, and none will raise him up, and I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it will devour all around him. This is what YHWH of hosts declares, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast, they refused to let them go. Their kinsman redeemer is strong, YHWH of hosts is his name, he will thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land, and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, declares YHWH, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, and they will show wicked folly, a sword is upon her mighty men, and they will be shattered. A sword is upon their horses and upon their chariots, and upon all the mixed races of people that are among her, and they will become as women. A sword is upon her treasures and they will be robbed. A drought is upon her waters and they will be dried up, because it is the land of graven images, and in idols they do boast themselves. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert with the wild animals of the islands will live there, and the owls will live in it, and it will be no more inhabited for the ages, neither will it be lived in from generation to generation. As Elohim overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities, declares YHWH, so will no man remain there, neither will any son of man reside there. Watch, a people will come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings will be raised up from the coasts of the earth. They will hold the bow and the lance, they are cruel, and will not show mercy, their voice will roar like the sea, and they will ride upon horses, everyone put in formation, like a man to the battle against you, O daughter of Babylon. The king of Babylon has heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble, anguish took hold of him and pains like a woman in labor. Watch, he will come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan to the habitation of the strong, but I will make them suddenly run away from her, and who is a chosen man, that I may appoint over her? Because who is like me? And who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Therefore hear the counsel of YHWH that he has taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he has purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Certainly the least of the flock will draw them out, surely he will make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babylon the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. This is what YHWH declares, Look, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that live among them that rise up against me, a destroying wind, and will send to Babylon strangers that will fan her, and will void her land, because in the day of trouble they will be against her all around. Against him that marches let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifts himself up in his armory, and spare you not her young men, devote to destruction all her army. Then the slain will fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. Because Israel has not been forsaken, nor Judah of his Elohim, of YHWH of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his life, be not cut off in her depravity, because this is the time of YHWH's vengeance, he will render to her a dealing. Babylon has been a golden cup in YHWH's hand, that made all the earth drunken, the nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are boastful. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed, wail for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed, forsake her, and let us go everyone into his own country, because her judgment reaches to the skies, and is lifted up even to the skies. YHWH has brought out our righteousness, come and let us declare in Zion the work of YHWH Elohim. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields, YHWH has raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, because his device is against Babylon, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of YHWH, the vengeance of his temple. Set up the standard on the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes, because YHWH has both devised and done what he spoke against the inhabitants of Babylon. O you that live on many waters, abundant in treasures, your end has come and the measure of your unjust gain. YHWH of hosts has adjured by himself saying, Certainly I will fill you with men, as with young locusts, and they will lift up a shout against you. He has made the earth by his power, he has established the world by his wisdom, and has stretched out the universe by his understanding. When he utters his voice, there is an abundance of waters in the skies, and he causes the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth, he makes the lightning with rain, and brings out the wind from its storehouse. Every man is brutish by his knowledge, every founder is withered by the graven image, because his cast metal image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, the work of errors, in the time of their visitation they will be destroyed. The portion of Jacob is not like them, because he is the former of all things, and Israel is the staff of his inheritance, YHWH of hosts is his name. You are my battle axe and weapons of war, because with you will I break in pieces the nations, and with you will I destroy kingdoms, and with you will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with you will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider, with you also will I break in pieces man and woman, and with you will I break in pieces old and young, and with you will I break in pieces the young man and the virgin, I will also break in pieces with you the shepherd and his flock, and with you will I break in pieces the farmer and his yoke of oxen, and with you will I break in pieces captains and rulers. And I will render to Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their bad that they have done in Zion in your sight, declares YHWH. Look, I am against you, O destroying mountain, declares YHWH that destroys all the earth, and I will stretch out my hand on you, and roll you down from the rocks, and will make you a burning hill country. And they will not take of you a stone for a corner, nor a stone for foundations, but you will be desolate for the ages, declares YHWH. Set you up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the nations, prepare the nations against her, call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, Minni, and Ashkenaz, appoint a captain against her, cause the horses to come up as the rough young locust. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, its captains and all the rulers, and all the land of his dominion. And the land will tremble in sorrow, because every purpose of YHWH will be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant. The mighty men of Babylon have desisted to fight, they have remained in their forts, their might has failed, they became as women, they have burnt her dwelling places, her city gates are broken. One post will run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babylon that his city is seized at one outskirts, and that the passages, communications, are stopped, and the troubled pool, oil, they have burnt with fire, and the men of war are terrified. Because this is what YHWH of hosts, the Elohim of Israel declares, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor, it is time to thresh her, still a little while, and the time of her harvest will come. Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon has devoured me, he has crushed me, he has made me an empty vessel, he has swallowed me up like a dragon, he has filled his belly with my luxuries, he has cast me out. The violence done to me and to my flesh be upon Babylon, will the inhabitant of Zion say, and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea, will Jerusalem say. Therefore this is what YHWH declares, see, I will plead your cause and take vengeance for you, and I will dry up her sea, and make her springs dry. And Babylon will become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, an appalment, and an hissing, without an inhabitant. They will roar together like lions, they will yell as lions' cubs. In their heat I will make their banquets, and I will make them drunken, that they may rejoice, and sleep an age-lasting sleep and not awake, declares YHWH. I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams with he-goats. How is Sheshach captured? And how is the praise of the whole earth surprised? How Babylon has become an appalment among the nations. The sea has come up upon Babylon, she is covered with the multitude of its waves. Her cities are a waste, a dry land and a wilderness, a land where no man resides, neither does any son of man pass thereby. And I will punish Bel in Babylon, and I will bring out of his mouth what he has swallowed up. And the nations will not flow together any more to him, yes, the wall of Babylon will fall. My people, go you out of the midst of her, and deliver you everyone his life from the fierce anger of YHWH. And unless your heart faints, and you fear for the rumor that will be heard in the land, a rumor will both come 1 year, and after that in another year will come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. Therefore behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babylon, and her whole land will be confounded, and all her slain will fall in the midst of her. Then the skies and the earth, and all that is in it, will sing for Babylon, because the despoilers will come to her from the north, declares YHWH. As Babylon has caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon will fall the slain of all the earth. You that have escaped the sword, go away, stand not still, remember YHWH afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. We are disconcerted, because we have heard taunting, shame has covered our faces, because foreigners are come into the sacred place of YHWH's house. Therefore watch, the days come, declares YHWH, that I will do judgment upon her graven images, and through all her land the wounded will groan. Though Babylon should mount up to the skies, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, still from me will despoilers come to her, declares YHWH. A sound of a cry comes from Babylon, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans, because YHWH has despoiled Babylon, and destroyed out of her the great voice, when her waves do roar like great waters, a noise of their voice is uttered, because the despoiler has come upon her, even upon Babylon, and her mighty men are captured, every one of their bows is broken, because YHWH Elohim of recompenses will certainly make good. And I will make drunk her princes, and her wise men, her captains, and her rulers, and her mighty men, and they will sleep an age-lasting sleep, and not awake, declares the King, whose name is YHWH of hosts. This is what YHWH of hosts declares, the broad walls of Babylon will be utterly broken, and her high gates will be burnt with fire, and the people will labor in vain, and the people in the fire will become weary. The word that Jeremiah the prophet commanded Seraiah the son of Neriah, the son of Maaseiah, when he went with Zedekiah the king of Judah into Babylon in the 4th year of his reign. And this Seraiah was a quiet prince. So Jeremiah wrote in a scroll all the bad that should come upon Babylon, even all these words that are written against Babylon. Then Jeremiah said to Seraiah, when you come to Babylon and will see, and will read all these words, then you will say, O YHWH, you have spoken against this place, to cut it off, that none will remain in it, neither man nor animal, but that it will be desolate for the ages. And it will be, when you have made an end of reading this scroll, that you will bind a stone to it, and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates, and you will say, thus will Babylon sink and will not rise from the badness that I will bring upon her, and they will become weary. So far are the words of Jeremiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did what was bad in the eyes of YHWH, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For through the anger of YHWH it came to pass in Jerusalem and Judah, until he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came, he and all his army against Jerusalem, and encamped against it, and built siege works against it all around. So the city was besieged to the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And in the 4th month, in the 9th day of the month, the famine was severe in the city, so that there was no food for the people of the land. Then the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled, and went out of the city by night by the way of the gate between the two walls that was by the king's garden. Now the Chaldeans were by the city all around, and they went by the route of the plain. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued after the king, and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. Then they took the king and carried him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah in the land of Hamath, where he gave judgment on him. And the king of Babylon killed the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, he also killed all the princes of Judah in Riblah. Then he put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and the king of Babylon bound him in chains, and carried him to Babylon, and put him in prison until the day of his death. Now in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard that served the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem. And burnt the temple of YHWH and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem and all the houses of the great men, he burnt with fire, and all the army of the Chaldeans, that were with the captain of the guard, broke down all the walls of Jerusalem all around. Then Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard carried away captive certain of the poor of the people, and the rest of the people that remained in the city, and those that fell away, that fell to the king of Babylon and the rest of the multitude. But Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard left some of the poor of the land for vine dressers and for farmers. Also the pillars of brass that were in the temple of YHWH, and the bases, and the bronze sea that was in the house of YHWH, the Chaldeans broke, and carried all its brass to Babylon. The cauldrons also, and the shovels, and the snuffers, and the bowls, and the spoons, and all the vessels of brass where they ministered, they took away. And the basins, fire pans, bowls, cauldrons, candlesticks, spoons, and cups, what was of gold in gold, and what was of silver in silver, took the captain of the guard away. The 2 pillars, 1 sea, and 12 bronze bowls that were under the bases that King Solomon had fashioned in the temple of YHWH, the bronze of all these vessels was without weight. And concerning the pillars, the height of one pillar was 18 cubits, 27 feet, and a fillet of 12 cubits, 18 feet, did compass it, and its thickness was 4 fingers, it was hollow. And a capital of bronze was upon it, and the height of one capital was 5 cubits, 7.5 feet, with network and pomegranates upon the capitals all around, all of bronze. The second pillar also and the pomegranates were similar to these. And there were 96 pomegranates on a side, and all the pomegranates upon the network were 100 all around. And the captain of the guard took Sariah the chief priest, and Zephaniah the second priest, and the 3 guards of the door. He took also out of the city an eunuch that had the charge of the men of war, and 7 men of them that were near the king's person, which were found in the city, and the principal scribe of the army, who conscripted the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land, that were found in the midst of the city. So Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard took them, and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. And the king of Babylon struck them, and put them to death in Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah was carried away captive out of his own land. These are the people who Nebuchadnezzar carried away captive. In the 7th year 3,023 Jews, in the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar he carried away captive from Jerusalem 832 people. In the 23rd year of Nebuchadnezzar Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard carried away captive of the Jews 745 people, all the people were 4,600. And it came to pass in the 37th year of the captivity of Jehoiakim king of Judah, in the 12th month, on the 25th day of the month, that Evil-Merodach king of Babylon in the 1st year of his reign lifted up the head of Jehoiakim king of Judah, and brought him out of prison. And spoke kindly to him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babylon, and changed his prison garments, and he did continually eat food before him all the days of his life. And for his diet, there was a continual diet given to him from the king of Babylon, every day a portion until the day of his death, all the days of his life.